start exactly after 2 minutes. Yeah. And then we are still waiting for Deepak to join. Deepak, if you are there, please raise your hand or voice out. We will add you in speaker. Uh, okay, then after Deepak, then we will. Okay, Deepak is from France. Then we will have Meena Anand from Malaysia, and then we will go to Germany. Mukesh Mali, and then Manoj Agrawal from India will be there. We have Alvir from Philippines, then Sherier from Bangladesh, then Emmanuel from Nigeria, Oshana Dias from Sri Lanka, Usha Dantu will join little late, I believe. She's from USA. Wulan is there, so she's from Indonesia. And then Rahul Patke is also there from Bahrain. Jackie also there from Kenya. And then we will have Priya Khare. We'll need to check Priya also whether she's there or not. So this is how guys schedule will be there. Okay, hi guys and girls, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I can't say only one, but yes. So this is how we experience. We are working with global world now, and thanks to technology, which is bringing us together and very close. Okay, whether it's because of the good reason, because of the bad reason, that's a different thing. I am happy to share that the launch of HR Shaper Global Webinar Series happen, and this was last week. So we had a speaker from around 12 countries, and those were USA, South Africa, Saudi Arabia, Dubai, Singapore, Nigeria, Ghana, and India. And today again we have 12 global speakers. So thank you so much. There will be a third series also covering rest of the countries. And the unique thing is we are taking one topic covering all the countries so that audience get exactly how the global practice is on only one topic. And this is very crucial topic as we know. I don't want to say much because speaker have a lot to share. But yes, in one shot, how we need to take care of the employee engagement during work from home, remote workforce. Most of the people are working, especially we are from services sector, many of us. So people are working how to take care of them. Yes. Come to HR Shaper. HR Shaper is a non-virtual, non-profit global body. Many of you are part of it. We have WhatsApp group around 50. We have WhatsApp group for each countries, and and this is around 6 years old. We were supposed to celebrate anniversary, but that didn't happen because of this. But we'll celebrate anyway. It's always celebrated in month of February, and we have around 10,000 people only on the WhatsApp. Plus, there is a Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn page, and that's how I'm connected with many people. And then looking forward everybody to be part of it. Okay, so this is only short introduction. You can always do the Google search, type HR Shaper, you'll get a lot of information. So I stop here and I hand over to Taruna, who's VP from Xoxoday. Let me thank you, first of all, Xoxoday, because we were doing a offline conference, and we did it in one location. We were supposed to do in one more, but that didn't happen. And suddenly this thing has came up. So I thought let's continue the relationship, and this will go on for one or two more series as well. So over to Taruna. Priya, is Taruna there?
Yes, I am.
Yeah,
Thanks,
Taruna.
Ashish. Hello, everyone. Thank you all for joining in. I take the pleasure of welcoming one and all for this session. I'm sure that you all are doing fantastic and also having some fun time with your families as well at this time. Now, we all are in the midst of a difficult situation, but I also think that there's a lot of learning that we all are taking up on daily basis. And it's commendable how in the best interest of society, we all are getting adjusted to the concept of social distancing and are restricting ourselves to our homes. I work with Xoxoday. I head their human resources, and as an organization, Xoxoday is glad to partner with HR Shapers, and we are very happy that we are jointly able to set up a session on a very interesting topic of employee engagement during work from home. A little about Xoxoday. Now, we have been empowering and working with the organizations in having their workforce keeping them motivated. We have launched AI-based rewards and incentive programs, and we have three major product lines with us. which is Impulse, Plum, and Compass. And these are being used across the globe by the organizations to drive reward and recognition programs for their internal and the external employee workforce as well. Now, at Xoxoday, we have a very firm belief that the moment you have an engaged workforce, which would be a combination, as I said, of your employees or business associate and channel partners, there is no hesitation or no stopping them in going beyond the call of duty and striving much harder. So this, I think, ladies and gentlemen, is the core of our discussion for today evening. And we will also have Mr. Manoj Agrawal, who is the co-founder for Xoxoday, as a part of the esteemed panel of speakers who would be presenting his views as well on this topic. Manoj has been leading Xoxoday for last 8 years now successfully, and that's how old our organization is as well. Now, there's a lot of positive that work from home brings in along with it, and I'm sure that if the engagement as a piece can be strengthened, it is going to give a lot of fruitful gains for any organization. So with this, I hand it over to the speakers. Please enjoy the session. Thanks, Ashish.
Yeah, thanks, Taruna and Zozo, the entire team. They are doing really wonderful job arranging this kind of webinar with the help of platform and people. Okay, great. So without spending much time, let me hand over to Deepak Kumar, EVP HR, Seidel Group. He is from France. So he will share insight on the topic, which is obviously employee engagement during work from home. Over to you, Deepak.
Thank you, Ashish, and thank you, HR Shapers, for giving me this opportunity. And if it's okay, Ashish, I would like to share a few slides. Is this
yes,
okay?
yes.
Let me just see if I can. Can you see my screen now?
We can see, yeah, you can start, yeah.
Okay, good. And I would like to share because it's been, we started working on this COVID when our business in China was affected. China was the first country, and we have a biggest operation, including our headquarters in Italy. So you can imagine how we have been at the very front of fighting this situation. So this is, I would say that first of all, it's very important to keep communicating with the employees and listen to them. And number one priority, we have made some principles while we started. We had a crisis committee even when China was there in mid of or early February, and then we converted into a global crisis committee. And what some of the principles what we decided: number one, we'll keep employee health as priority number one, and this comes out all the time whenever we are communicating with the people or whenever we are deciding anything about HR policies or making adjustment in our policy framework. And we have also realized, because after it moved to Europe, it's not going to go very soon. And I will show you one of the BCG modeling, which saying that lockdown might not be a few weeks thing. It might go from 3 to 6 months. I will show you quickly on that. And we also realize while it will be a global crisis, but there are certain activities, certain communication that we need to locally to be done. And the world is not flat, and customers are demanding different approaches. If you ask me, today, even in the US, many of the customers are running full speed, and they're asking for the help. And just so you know, many of our customers are in the business of providing liquid food like milk, water, juices, soft drink. Pepsi and Coke are one of our major customers, and we had one of crisis in Philippines. 42 of engineers were doing the installation and commissioning, and one of the external person, he got affected with the virus. So we have to bring 42 people out from, and many of them belong to Europe, France and Italy mainly. And one thing that we are doing, because every day we are updating on the virus situation in each country, and we are trying to fill the void because we have certain policies, parameters where the managers can approve, where it will have to go to the regional head and where it will come to the global head, because for each country we have decided this. Maintaining the listening strategies, here I can share with you, because we have in Asia region, AOA region, we call it Asia, Oceania and Africa. We have weekly call by the top leadership team. For 1 hour, everybody can can call, and then they can raise their questions or concerns about that. So we are maintaining the listening strategy. We have not gone yet, and I'll be interested to listen is, have anybody gone for a spatial pulse survey during this time? So far we have not gone, and we have not thought about it yet. There is one thing I can share with the reflection, that people are connecting very well. And when you work in France and Italy, and if union comes and tells you that we really appreciate the efforts that you are doing, is something, because it's not always easy to extract some appreciation from the union. But people are saying that people would like to listen more, and they would like to be connected. If you have any event or any communication channel, it is always full. Yeah. So these are some of those principles that we have been working. This I told because this helps us to contextualize the things, because we are not doing anything for a few weeks. We have to think about if we are giving any special allowance for people visiting customer, or we are running some of the factories because they have been declared essential services by those countries. I think it's not going to be for a few weeks. We have to think about, we have to budget for additional allowances for 3 to 6 months, right? So this is something I wanted to share. This is one of the pages we call it Inside Incident. It is our intranet website, and you will see that every day we update it. And this is, I'm just giving you, yesterday evening I took the picture of that and pasted it. Latest measures on guidelines related to COVID-19, right? And there are different travel approval. What are the regional measures you've done, and if you need to travel, what you should do, and what you should be doing after and during the travel. And there's one more thing. We have issued guideline very early, around late February. We issued the guideline of smart working, and 2 sets of guideline. One was a smart working for the employees, and this was made by HR, my colleague OD head. She prepared smart working guideline for the employees and also for the managers, because also we have to encourage managers. Working remotely doesn't mean that there is no contact. I think it is good to create opportunities to continue to talk, right? So these are some of the smart working guidelines. We call it smart working from home. Something that I will not really give you, will give you more details, but one of the first parameters what we looked at when we declared lockdown in Italy, because we have more than 1,000 employees in Parma office. There were 200 people in the shop floor, but 800 people who are working from home. About 300 of them did not have the laptop and the ability to be connected like VPN account. So we have to, IT worked very well during those 3 or 4, 5 days period, and everybody who is working.
Deepak, we lost you.
Hello? Is there a question? Okay. So then I will continue, because this is, so we provided them within 3 or 4 days. All IT really worked overtime to provide laptop and connectivity tools with them. They do one more thing, because we have a cornerstones or HRIS system. It's a cornerstone system. We call it Myling, and we have created the online learning, because online learning on stress management, online learning for working from home, and online working for some of the managers. So you can see that this is portal, and which is available from our web page, even on the front page of the company. I will have those 5 points, and I will end there, and I will give time for the other people to ask the questions, because 2 or 3 minute time. We have started a psychological support line with an external agencies, because as you can see, for some of the employees, it's not a normal situation, and some of the people, right, they are saying, I'm a sales guy and I hardly see my family. Now I'm all the time stuck in the same flat with my family. It is having a problem for my relationship. So these are the kind of questions that they come, and it is an external agency that we have called, and I forget its name. It's an Italian agency, and it is available only in Italy. So this is 24/7. People can call anytime if they have anything related to stress, relationship, any personal issue or personal problem. And of course, a specific recommendation on health and safety have already been used, and we are encouraging more and more people working from home to take those online courses that we have that we have provided. Global recommendations are also prepared for the managers and co-worker. I'll be having for the top 100 manager one session tomorrow again, and how they are doing, how they should communicate with their team, and of course cornerstone e-learning on working from home. This is something that I would like to share with you. And you know, Telex is a corporate arm of Art of Living. Some of you might not know Art of Living is an Indian organization run by Shri Ravi Shankar. They talk a lot about the wholesome health, including the well-being and the mindfulness and meditation. So their corporate arm have really organized in France to have to organize the session, everyday session. They have two sessions, one in English, one in French, where people can go and sit and do mindfulness. So one session I've organized for the senior top level management on Tuesday next week. So this is another thing that we are doing. So these are the things that I would say I'm talking at a very top level, that what we are doing for keeping employees engaged, taking care of them, and keep on communicating with them. So this is what I wanted to say. Probably I have almost 6 minutes, if I'm not wrong. Then I leave it time for a minute for any question and answer or any reaction.
Yeah, Deepak, thank you so much. So good insight. I think it's a common question. So yeah, I will start with you because it's posted by delegate also that, you know, how do we monitor work from home in terms of productivity and, you know, consistency and all? Just keep it short and simple.
Okay, absolutely. I think this is a good question, and you will see why it has not come up in my presentation. And maybe it is also the little bit culture. We are not looking at the moment at the work, the productivity at this, because business continuity is going on. We are asking manager. There is something which I not mentioned, that we are asking now selected employees to take 1 day off for every week worked for the last 3 weeks. And some of the people are saying that, no, I'm fully busy for the 5 days, and we trust the judgment of their manager. They can go to the manager and they can do that. So at the moment, and this week one site, next week the other site, some of the sites will be closed during this period of the vacation in Europe. So if we are not measuring anything, we have not put any measurement. It's more the culture of the company and more trusting. And even we have kept only 1 day off during the 4 days of after 4 days of 1 day off they can take. But we also trust if some people say that, no, I think I'm fully loaded, and they can go to the manager and manager will waive this. Does that answer your question?
Okay, we can't hear from because it's not audio enabled for participant, but yes, partially. Okay, I can say more to do with manager to keep the tracking. Good. Thanks, Deepak. We would love to be there till the end of the session, and please keep hearing from other countries speaker. And participant will have question from you also. In the end, we will have open question. So okay, from yeah, thanks, Deepak. So from France, we come to here, which is Malaysia. So Meena is a good friend of HR Shepherd, not only me, because she was a speaker in, you know, one or two, I believe one of the session in Malaysia. So thanks, Meena, for being there that time. And we would love to hear on the topic of obviously employee engagement during work from home, how the Malaysia and Eastern Chart is doing. Over to you.
Thanks, Ashish. And can we take the slides off to start off with? I don't have fancy slides like Deepak.
No problem.
So first of all, hi everyone. Really good to kind of be on this call. I really look forward to hearing from the presenters, as well as, you know, a lot of the questions that come from you. I guess I wanted to start off by saying that as the different markets are at different stages, different engagement techniques and activities are required. I know that sounds really obvious, but most of us work in a lot of global roles and have to deal with markets at different life cycle stages of the virus. So let me give you a couple of examples. My team are in China, are actually actively thinking about how do we stabilize the new normal. You know, Wuhan's just opened up its transport facilities, and so they're really thinking about how do we actually embrace some of the new ways of working and set that up for the new norms. And then I have teams in India where they're really thinking about basic infrastructure. You know, how many people can I get into the office? Is public transport working, and so on. So I'm going to focus on 6 key activities that help at different stages of the life cycle of the coronavirus life cycle. So first of all, for those of you who are at the onset of the virus, and there are still some countries that are in that space, so a lot of Africa. I'm really looking forward to hearing from the teams in Nigeria and Kenya. But for those guys, it's really about getting the basics right. And the basics, I've kind of split into 4 areas. One is technology. This is probably my 4th or 5th different collaboration platform that I've used over the last 2 weeks. Not surprising. Secondly, access to questions and just comments and somebody to kind of talk to. So we set up at least 5 different communication channels for people to get in touch. So whether that through your people leader, a leader session where you can just kind of post questions, but also like a daily set of notes that go out, to all of our people leaders. And EAP support. So I think Deepak talked about the psychological side of things. EAP is quite a big part of our reward proposition, and EAP support. So I think Deepak talked about the psychological side of things. EAP is quite a big part of our reward proposition, and it totally makes sense to include that here. So that's the first thing, just getting the basics right. And that's almost like sorting out the hygiene factors. The second thing is really supporting the teams to go into a much more structured operating model. So, you know, help them create a new normal, a new operating model. So, for example, team meetings. You know, build in time to not during the team meetings, build in time to not just talk about the work, but also them in terms of where they are emotionally. And you'll have the whole spectrum in a team. You'll have people who are really anxious about the situation, but others that are really embracing it and seeing how the technology has really advanced, how decisions are made a lot quicker. And you'll have the whole spectrum. And it's really important that as a people leader, they make room in the schedule to have those kind of conversations. So let me give you my example. I have a daily call with my team in Malaysia. And we talk about tasks and activities and what we need to get done for like 10 minutes. The rest of the kind of 15 minutes or so is really spent on what's happening in people's lives. You know, where are they now? What new things have come up? What questions do they have? So that's the kind of second thing in terms of just setting up and supporting people leaders to set up a new normal, a new enhanced operating rhythm. I think thirdly, make sure the people leaders actually make room for one-to-one check-ins too with their teams. It's really easy to just forget the fact that you know, there's so much going on. It's so frantic. It's really easy to just forget about that. But the one-to-one check-ins are really important and really use those to focus on understanding the personal circumstances of each individual. So, for example, do they have elderly relatives at home that they need to look after? Or do they have young kids that they need to focus on? So, for example, if I just look at my team, I have one of my team stuck in another market in Poland, away from his family for the first time. And he's finding it, he's coping well, but it just goes to show how different situations can be. I have another one who's just moved from India to Malaysia, has no internet in the new house, and away from his family again. So that's the second thing. Actually, make sure people leaders actually make room for one-to-ones and check-ins. Fourthly, and I was interested to hear Deepak's view on productivity. My fourth one is actually track productivity. It's really important that you do that. And what we've seen from the bank so far is that for the first couple of days that people were getting into an operating rhythm of working at home, productivity dropped a little bit. Dropped about 20 or 30%. Expected, as people kind of get involved in understand the new mechanisms, understand what's expected of them. But then we found the following couple of weeks, actually productivity went way beyond what they would normally do. So we almost have like a productivity surge. I think what will happen over time is that it will level off as some of the restrictions kind of lift. But it's really important to kind of track that as a business leader, as a people leader. That's the fourth bit. The fifth one is scenario planning, and do that. And it's quite easy to do scenario planning in isolation and put together a plan of options together without actually involving the team. Now is the time where you need to kind of get collective brains around a particular problem. Some of the problems that we have to deal with need to be dealt with. They're complex problems and they need to be dealt with quickly. You can't do that on your own. So in terms of engaging the team, get them involved in some of the scenarios that you're thinking about. So, for example, we're looking at what do we do when the monitoring control order actually lifts, the movement control order in Malaysia lifts. I haven't done that in isolation. We've probably had about 30 people on the call that actually helped in terms of determining how do we actually decide what the plan would be. And then lastly, I think it's important that we actually get teams to focus on the future. So what parts of the situation that we're in, the ways of working that we're in, can and should we be taking into the ways of working going forward when all of this is over and done with? What's been really helpful? So we've noticed that decision making is a lot quicker. Technology, for sure, people are getting much more used to. We have almost 95% of our population actually working from home. Nobody would ever have thought that would happen, even 4 or 5 months ago. So they're my 6 areas. Get the basics right. Support people leaders and business leaders to create an operating rhythm for the team. Make sure people leaders actually make room for one-to-one check-ins, track productivity, build out scenarios with the team, and really focus on activities that are really working well now and that they should be taking into the future. I'm going to stop there. Happy to take any questions.
Yeah, thanks, Meena. So that was really insightful. Again, I think question again coming back about the productivity. So partially, if we can cover with another question that e-learning is good initiative, but how long can you keep them without interaction with the team and manager and teacher or trainer?
Yeah. So so in terms of e-learning, we do do a lot of e-learning, but most of that's when you get inducted into our organization. We realize that you have to have some sort of human contact, even in the onboarding approach that we take. So what we've done actually is we're still bringing new people into our organization. We normally have like a half-day program in-house. What we've done instead is actually given them Skype access, and we have a dialogue very similar to this as part of the induction program to supplement the e-learning.
Yeah, okay, thanks. There are some input also coming. So Meena, you can look into chat box and if you can respond, so delegate can get input.
Yeah,
and
happy
also,
to do that.
yeah, sure.
Happy to do the questions.
Yeah, thank you, Meena. Thank you so much for
Thanks.
joining. Yeah. So that was from Malaysia, and now we come to Europe part. So welcome, Mukesh. We can see you. You can hear us.
Yes, very much.
Yeah. So Mukesh Mali is from BSF, and so he will be sharing insight on again, yeah, same topics. I don't need to repeat. I posted his LinkedIn profile and all the details. So over to you, Mukesh. You can start now.
Thank you, Ashish. Thanks for this opportunity to talk about what we are doing in terms of engaging our employees working from home. So I definitely agree with what Deepak and also Meena talked about. I would say we wouldn't be very different from what they mentioned. However, I would like to come up with a couple of actionable, or I would say technology tools that we use. So I would like to actually categorize into three buckets. I would say communication, collaboration tools, and also continuous learning. Since people also get some time at home now, the commuting time has gone down. So in BSF, what we've done here is internal online forum. That's something we've created, which is hashtag together we can do it. And we use this platform so where employees can post good news in the times of Corona crisis, because wherever you see, you have a lot of negative news going around in the media, on news channels, and number of deaths. So it's like looking at a cricket score or a football score. Yeah, so it's crazy to talk like that. So in that time of in this scenario, we try to focus a lot on what can be done instead of focusing on the crisis itself. So for example, BSF products that help combating the virus, positive experience in home office or in the production, or simply thank to a colleague who are now doing a particularly a good job. Yeah. So we use this on a platform called Yammer, and it's actually an MS Office platform. So there is no extra cost involved. So we use it kind of internally. The people post their photos of their food, their lunch, collaborating on various topics. So this kind of works very well. Not everybody is fully well versed with the platform, but we also try to do collaboration week where we try to train people. We, in a sense, it's our IT team which organizes weekly tool-wise, based on the tools that we have available, training that with how do you make best use of these tools. So we try to do that. People also, I would say, we have a big ecosystem. The problem has been earlier before the crisis that people weren't aware what's available and what could be a best platform or a tool for a kind of communication they're looking at. So we have that. I'll come to that when I talk about collaboration tools. I would say there are simple things like there's something called the Music Playground, which is a website where it's a full service original music production studio. So simple thing, what we have done is we share things like playlist of music, which represents all their talented brand, artists, composers, that exudes hope, togetherness, positivity, love, and strength. So this type of sentiments and messaging feels important right now. And it's a great way to rest, relax, and listen to their playlist in the spare time. A simple thing like that. We also, of course, like Deepak mentioned, intranet. So on our internal intranet globally, we have a dedicated page on coronavirus. There, of course, we have the support available in all the countries, in the regions where people can reach out in terms of crisis or in case of anything related to coronavirus. We've also done articles which talks about 8 ways to look after your mental health. So there are various articles, but we also realize that people are also going through mental challenges with all the anxiety, because we're sitting here at home, but somebody in the world across the globe, somebody may have some issue in their family. Somebody is going through a crisis right now. Somebody is really experiencing it. We only see the numbers on the screen, but somebody is facing it. So we have things like that, which kind of also help people understand how they can consciously take care of their mental health while taking care of the physical health at home. Because at home, nobody was prepared to have the right ergonomics, to have the right chair, to have the right setup in the office. So we try as much as possible organize those webinars as well internally, where we do talk about make remote work work. So there we specifically talk about all the basics, how your computer should be, how your table should be, what should be the height, blah, blah. Yeah? So how people could make best use of available resources at home. Of course, we also have things like desk detox exercise. Now, what we've done is we have a couple of leaders in the organization who've come together and made online video. So it's like part by part, leaders doing some exercise. So it's kind of a 30-minute session, and you have different leaders in their very casual clothes, in their real self, making those steps. Yeah, so we've combined those. Those are available, and these are available on a platform called MS Stream. So which is again a Microsoft platform. Of course, like Meena mentioned about the e-learning, you also talked about it. E-learning, yes, of course, can be difficult, but we have already LinkedIn Learning platforms. So people who are aware of it or familiar with it, there are plenty of good programs on plenty of topics, even I would say covering topics which is relevant in this crisis situation. So we're using that, or rather we are able to promote it a lot more now because we cannot meet face to face. So that's available. I would come to the last thing, which is collaboration tools. It's very also critical to have the right tools available if you really want to collaborate. So we use MS Teams, where globally our team can come together and keep working on the projects, because this allows you to have your clear-cut target, timeline, what's expected. Of course, you need to have the check-in calls, like Meena mentioned about it. So we do that, but MS Teams is like when you're working across the globe, it just helps you that not call is always not possible. But if I have an idea, I could just post it, and anybody who's awake in North America could immediately reply, or when Asia wakes up, comments on that. So MS Teams has been a good platform that we've been using. We also use Webex, like what we are using right now, Zoom. So we have Webex as an internal platform, and this has been done or used extensively now. We have OneDrive, SharePoint, which also helps us in sharing files, editing files together. So we're leveraging that platform. When you come to more of human connect, one-on-one, what we also have started doing is virtual tea or coffee, virtual lunch. So it's like my dedicated time. I know that this is the time when I have lunch. Of course, it's not possible in different time zones, but at least when I'm in Germany, I can connect with my colleagues on lunch, not talking business at all, but just talking about their health, their well-being, how things are. So like what exactly Meena mentioned. So I would like to end it here. And if people have questions, I could elaborate. So thank you very much.
Okay, yeah, Mukesh. So thank you so much. Yeah, there are so many questions coming in chat box. I will take one question. Okay, this is again productivity. So let's hear from you as well. Uh, what does all leader here think about installing a productivity tracking tool in system that shows the activity time log automatically? Does it have any adverse situation? What would be your opinion, Mukesh?
I would say, Ashish, this would depend on the culture of the company. Like we at BSF are pretty, or in Germany itself, by culture, we are not so much into tracking each activity. What we focus rather is that this is your goal. So in 1 month, we have to be ready with XYZ. Yeah. And then it's about getting together and getting it done. So if we are able to deliver that in that timeline, that means we met the objective. So we're not really tracking that in a day, on a particular day, what time do you start, what time do you end, how much time do you spend on lunch. So we're not doing that micromanaging, because we believe this will demotivate people. This would also, and this is not the way that we as BSF would like to appear. So it more depends on the culture. So we don't really follow that.
Yeah, that's depend upon the question coming from which country. So I think it's more to do with the country culture and organization DNA. Thank you, Mukesh. So a lot of input coming on chat box. Please go through and pick up, some of them or many of them or all, and please keep answering.
Sure, I
Please
will.
be there till the end of the session. We'll have some question dedicated to you as well. Open Q&A. Thank you, Mukesh. So that was Mukesh from Germany. So we come to India now. So this is our partner, and he's the co-founder of Xoxoday, Mr. Manoj Agrawal.
Yeah, thanks, Ashish, and thanks everyone for taking out time for this session. Since I'm part of a company which is into people engagement, employee engagement, so we have little more data and more learnings from what different companies are doing. So I will share some of the best practices which different companies have taken during these times. And I hope that some of these practices might be useful for your companies in your respective locations. So one of the fundamentals is that uh, when we talk about employee engagement, is is employee engagement really changing when you are working from office or when you are working from home? Because most of the fundamentals of employee engagement generally remain the same. So for example, if we kind of break down what really engages an employee, then we start with is the person or is the employee really clear about his goals and roles in the company? Is he clear about what he is contributing to the company, and is it meeting the purpose of his joining the company? So that remains same whether you are working from home or whether you are working from office. Second is about whether the employee gets a voice to share in the company. So if an employee has some kind of a feedback or any kind of an idea, is the company providing enough tools, and there is a company culture that people are openly able to share their feedbacks and voice. Now that again doesn't change when you're working from home or when you're working from office. The third thing, which is very, very important into building a great culture and building a great engaged employee workforce in your company, is around respect and relationships. So, what is your culture in terms of how you respect your employees, and what are the kind of relationships employees have with their managers, with their peer, with their seniors, etc. And that is something which again comes from how you drive the culture in the company, and that doesn't really change when you're working from office or from home. Another dimension into engaging an employee is around motivating, recognizing and appreciating at the right time. So do you have a culture of appreciation and recognition when the employee really needs it? Is it proactive enough? Now, that again remains the same when you are working in any kind of environment. The only difference which comes to an office is that you are able to do it in person, whereas when you are working from home, maybe you are doing it virtually. And another important factor which comes is around empathy, compassion, and trust. And these are kind of invisible kind of values which are really tough both in a work remote environment or in an office environment. So how you show empathy or compassion or trust with your employees again remains same whether you work in remote or whether you work from office. So what I'm trying to establish here is that most of the dimensions of engaging an employee remain the same, irrespective of whether you work remotely or from office. So hence, I think if the basics of your employee engagement and how you handle your employees are right, uh, I, I assume that you will sail through very well. Your employees will be very happy. They will be very engaged. But if your basics itself are not right, I mean, if the fundamentals are wrong when you are working from office, then I mean it will be worse when you are working remotely. So that is one area where this pandemic basically gives you some kind of a time to introspect what are your people practices and how you can really improve that. Now, pertaining very specific to how you can really handle some of the situations in the current COVID times. So one is whenever there is a company which is global, let's say that there is a company which has say 10 offices and there are 1,000 plus people, and you have to HRs have to really care about all these locations. We generally think a little too much on the global aspect, but the current situation demands you to think very local, because your people are facing problems locally. and how best you can devise solutions which are best fitting in the local situations are very, very important, because a one size fits all may not really apply in the current situation. The way somebody handles this pandemic in Bangalore in India may be very, very different from how a company handles it in Singapore, which might be very different from how a company handles it in New York. So the HRs should think very locally and forget too much of, and then they should not be bound by the global rules during this time. They should really convince their global partners that this solution may not work locally, and hence we need to really be very agile to get to a local solution. The second thing is every situation like this requires a very agile and real-time action. I mean, you can't really go through a process, a kind of a huge layer of approvals. So be very, very decisive because any delay can be very fatal. The third thing is keep diagnosing. There are various ways of doing a diagnostic. It can be through surveys, it can be through different kind of pulse, it can be through simple chats, communication tools, which the other speakers have talked about. So keep diagnosing and keep actioning the results of the diagnosis. So don't hold back the diagnosis with yourself. Uh, and the fourth thing is that empower your managers and HRs as much as possible. So if your functions are more centralized, this situation will require decentralization, because if the company is large, you may not really get time to kind of run it through a central function. So empower your HRs and managers as much as you can, because the more people you empower, the better way you will be able to handle the situation. Because and then there were a lot of questions in the chat, and some of the speakers have answered that how do you handle productivity, etc., etc. Now productivity cannot be really handled by few HRs managing for a large workforce. It has to be handled by the line managers. And if all the line managers are empowered enough, then you will easily see that the productivity goes up, because every manager will be able to look into his or her span of reportees, and then can guide them, coach them, address their problems, and can take care of employee stress, employee satisfaction, employee productivity. Because few HRs cannot really solve the problem of such a large workforce which is spread across different geographies. One thing which has been helping us as a company is that whenever we take any decisions, we take decisions the way we would have taken such a decision when we are in a family. So think of your company as a family, that what would you have done in a similar situation when it comes to your family. Because when you take decisions in light with your family, then many of your decisions will be very humane, they will be very practical as well. So treat your employees like your family members, and then try to think that okay, what would this situation demand for these employees. Another thing which we have tried our level best in our company is that try to save the jobs of people, because a lot of companies will go through the stress and pressure that the costs are high, but the revenues are not really there. But uh, these are tough times, and we all need to kind of support our existing employees, that how do we save everyone's job, even if it requires cutting down any kind of salaries at the top level. It is fine, because it is more important that how many people you are able to survive, rather than how many people you are able to pay as per their pay scales. So let's kind of go away with some of the rules. Let's be a little more flexible with the rules, because rules can always come back when the situations are fine. Let's take some actions which are best suited for this particular situation, and we can be very, very clear and candid with the employees that as soon as the situations are back to normal, things will be normal. But for a particular time, maybe a few more weeks, things might be slightly more different from the usual self. But the entire idea is that we are trying to do the best for the sake of all the employees together rather than a few set of employees. uh, Communication really helps during this time. So don't assume that people know because they are glued to their TV or social media or WhatsApp, etc. There is a lot of information on social media, TV, and WhatsApp, but it is best that it comes from official channels. So it is always good idea that people keep listening to the channels of communication from their employers, whether it is from an HR or from their managers or from the CXOs. The channel of communication has to be very, very frequent and very authentic. That is the biggest difference between between an anxious mind and a relaxed mind. So if you are able to communicate very clear and candid, most of the stress and most of the anxiety will go away. And uh, good habits always help, but good habits can really help a lot during these times. So keep your and your employees habits, and kind of try to drive this message home that good habits around sleeping, eating, fitness, your mental well-being is very important. uh, Make doing taking some of the practices which are around any exercise, running, or maybe simple yoga can really help people uh, take away some stress during these times. Uh, Companies as well as HR leaders as well as employees can be really motivated to use this time to go beyond the call of duty, try to stress themselves for innovation, because you can really innovate when there is not much of pressure from the external world in terms of sales, etc. So this is a good time when you can innovate. You can do a lot of process improvements, because in a running environment you don't get time to kind of improve your processes. So this time gives you a good introspection that how can you improve your processes, how can you do the best in terms of constraints, because constraints really drive innovation. So try to use this time to innovate, upskill yourself, upskill your teams. If there is any architecture change which is required for technology teams, do that. So use this time in the best possible way. And I think simple things like help your family with some basic family stuff like cooking, painting, maybe cleaning, etc., etc., because that will keep you slightly away from the regular stress of work. Because when you are working from home, you also tend to lose the boundary between work and office, work and home. So try to involve and help your family with the family errands. Yeah, so these are some of the inputs from my side, and I'll be happy to answer any questions now or maybe later.
Yeah, Manoj, thank you so much. So yeah, we are just losing out on times, but yeah, there are a lot of input coming in chat box. You can look into those.
Okay.
Yeah, and you are there, I know, till the end of the session, so we can take questions. Okay, so that was Manoj from Xoxoday, India. We go to now Philippines here from India, so that's Alvir for us. Alvir is HR head for Capital Medical Center, Mount Grace Network. Over to you, Alvir. I will post the LinkedIn profile in chat box.
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes, yes.
All right. Well, first and foremost, I did not prepare one of those fancy PowerPoint as mentioned earlier, but it was a good presentation made earlier. However, comparing our situation now here in Manila to other countries may not be the same, especially coming from the organization that I represent. I work in a hospital, so we are actually at the front lines. So our issues are more towards keeping up the morale of the frontliners, which includes doctors, from security guard. I mean, from the security guards at the entrance, and then even the janitors, the doctors, and of course the nurses and our nursing assistants. So all this forms part of the frontliners. And we in the back support or the back offices are here to make it sure that all the necessary needs or the basic needs are already taken care of. So just so you know, Manila has extended its Luzon, the region, the entire region of Luzon, which includes Manila as the capital city. The president has finally extended the quarantine up to April 30. So that by saying the enhanced quarantine from March, when was it? March 13 will be, instead of ending on April 12, will be extended up to April 30. So that goes by saying that even public transportation would be made available up to the end of enhanced quarantine. Access also to groceries, wet market, and all other needs for your basic needs for in every household is temporarily affected because of this. And there is a limit in movement. So the government only allows certain individuals or certain professions, especially those essential part of the hospital or essential handle essential roles in the hospital, only are only allowed uh, to move around and take transportation. But even that being said, a public transportation is not available. So we in the hospital right now has to find ways in making sure that all our frontliners are taken care of. So when the enhanced quarantine started March 13, it really caught us off guard because we did not expect it to be this soon. We were anticipating it to be we're speculating it to be sometime um, middle of April, most likely after the Holy Week, or maybe next month, May. You know, it's going to be aligned with the global celebration of Labor Day. But then we were mistaken, so we were already caught off guard. So we just have to make the most of what we can do in terms of preparation for our BCP. You see, we cannot even call this BCP, Business Continuity Plan, because Business Continuity Plan is a program that you apply out of the ordinary. Meaning, when you are caught by any calamity or any disturbances, it will affect your day-to-day operation. But this is not just our day-to-day. This is our day-to-day operation. I mean, so it's just the pandemic doubled our regular dynamics in the operation of the hospital. So for situations like this, I could only think of one thing that help us out in getting ourselves ready as we found ourselves caught off guard. We weren't anticipating it this soon, but then there's one important tool that really helped us prepare that quick, and it's our HRIS, or Human Resource Information System. You see, it's a data very useful. If you have all your demographics in it, it will give you a bird's eye view, the congestion, or should I say the density of your population, of your employees, where they are located, areas where it's difficult for them to transport, and then and also will give you the bird's eye view of your population. How many are singles? How many are married? All those demographics will become helpful for you as you plan for your BCP. So when we pull out our data from our HRIS, we came to realize that most of our employees in the hospital are coming off from a certain location that's quite very far from it. It's still part of Luzon, but no longer part of Metro Manila. So what we did immediately is that we put up one part of the building. We dedicated it for accommodation. So instead of preparing those, some of those prepared for students, because we are partly college school. So instead of preparing those or using those for students, we prepared rooms instead, to accommodate our employees. And part of that is that we also tried to limit the interaction between floors. So we identified 2 floors dedicated only to COVID patients. Either you are PUI or PUM. Now, third to that is that we have separated the ER triage for COVID and ER triage for regular patients. So in that way, it gave us a what they call a sort of a better way of managing the pandemic, because what we cannot afford to do is to lose our employees to the infection. The best that we could do is to limit the interaction amongst employees to prevent infection amongst ourselves. So lucky for us, what I mean by us is me. Lucky for me, being the head of human resources when I started in June. When I started February this year. My immediate proposal when I saw the situation of my office, the location of my office, the immediate recommendation that I gave on my first week in the office was actually to pull out the support group, which includes HR, supply chain, finance, away from the main hospital. In fact, at that time, I was only preparing more towards probable strike because we're in the middle of CBA negotiation. So what I wanted to do is to make it sure that if ever strike happens due to deadlock, the deadlock in CBA negotiation, at least the operation, the back end, or should I say support services won't be affected from the operation of the hospital. So when pandemic happens and when we were subjected to ECQ, enhanced community quarantine, lucky for us that we have managed already, we have separated already the support services, and that gave us even, should I say, 40% confidence that the what do you call this infection, the infection won't affect the support services employees. So with that being said, I could only think of three things to share. First and foremost, keep your HRIS updated all the time. Years back, I think it was last year, yeah, even. No, years ago when I joined a beverage company, the plant manager was laughing at me when I organized a BCP workshop session to prepare all the managers for the BCP. And at that time, in that plant, the plant was located in Lagoon. So the preparation then was for a just in case situation or scenario of a tsunami. And since that we were located in the lagoon, the plant manager couldn't see the logic that something similar to that large calamity will happen in a place like that. So to make the long story short, a year after we've conducted the workshop for BCP, the whole time while we were conducting it, the plant manager, all my peers were laughing at me for having that kind of project. But anyway, a year after, Yolanda happened in Tacloban City. That's the southern part of the Philippines. And when that happened, it wasn't tsunami, but it was a storm surge. Twice as dangerous or twice as deadly as a tsunami. So they were caught off guard. But you know what saved us in terms of recovery is the what do you call this, real-time updated HRIS. So same thing that happened to us with the pandemic that we have right now in Manila. We were so lucky that our HRIS or our employees' data were updated. Most of them are updated. So when we started giving out employees certificate just for them to use the checkpoint along with their hospital ID, it was easier for us to produce, and it was easy also for us to identify the demographics of our employees, the number of women, male over female, and then the number of married employees, how many kids they have. So in that way, it also gave us the what do you call this, an advantage coming up with an employee engagement support. So that, I think, first is having a very reliable HRIS where data are real time, if not real time, updated by 15 days or maybe by 30 days. Second is to be abreast with what's going on in the community. You can, being an HR head, having the knowledge of what's going on in your country as a whole is equally important as having, or is the same as having knowledge within the community. So having that relationship with the chairman of your community, we call it barangay, having that relationship, or maybe an acquaintance, having to be acquainted with the chief of police within your district, all these two are equally important as having the knowledge of the quarantine as a whole country. So that's second. Third, this is the best time where you can engage your union officers, because most of the time, whatever employee complaints that will reach you has already been filtered by one of the union officers. So most often than not, in a unionized organization like ours, when you hear issues, concerns, oftentimes these are amplified already by union officers. So, well, you cannot blame them because they are the representative of the membership, right? They represent the memberships. So this is the best time to establish that union relationship, that industrial relationship. So having that said, employee engagement should not be limited only as management initiated, but rather in the spirit of good, harmonious relationship with the union members or with the union officers. So when the membership sees that both sides are collaborating for the best of their welfare, it becomes something to them, uh, a heartfelt gesture. So these are my three takeaways that I would like to share with everybody.
Okay, yeah, thanks always. So we are losing out time. Okay, requesting every speaker to just keep it within 7 to 8 minutes. So I'm sure there are a lot of questions always for you, and thanks to you, you are from healthcare industry, so doing wonderful job in this situation. I have one question. Please post the answer, and that question is, uh, in healthcare industry, considering everybody busy with the work, unlike different kind of services industries or people, some of the industries they don't have work, they can't even work from home. So how do you engage the people? Don't answer here, but keep it in a chat box. Plus, there are the questions for you also. Look at it in both window and keep responding. And please be there. We'll have open Q&A. Thanks always. So that was always from Indonesia. Oh, sorry, that was always from Philippines. A good friend of HR Shepper. Yeah. Okay, so we go to Nigeria here. I'm sorry to inform that Shahryar from Bangladesh couldn't join. There was some family emergency, so he had to rush. So I'm handing over to Emmanuel Michael, who's good friend of HR Shepper from Nigeria. He's the HR head for Let's Hash Go, Lagos. Over to you, Emmanuel. Yes, we can see you.
Okay, fine. So,
Yeah.
good afternoon, good morning from wherever you are watching. Okay, so for us here in Nigeria, I'm talking on the topic employee engagement during work from home. So I saw a research done by Gartner. They had projected that by 2030, 30% there will be a demand for remote work, and about 30% increase in demand for remote work by 2030. And then looking at today, we're in 2020, so that's 10 years earlier. The increase for demand for remote work is not just 30%, it's now 100%. Almost every organization across the globe is looking for a way to ensure they implement remote work. And that same applies to us here in Nigeria. And so how did we tackle this situation when we discovered that the coronavirus was beginning to take shape and it has started extending to Nigeria? So what we did in my organization was basically to look through our workforce and categorize them into three. So the first part was identifying roles that are highly possible to work remotely. There are certain roles that have been working remotely before now. So those ones were categorized as highly possible. And then there are other roles that we discovered are possible, but at the cost. So say, for instance, you have the sales team that has not been working remotely, and now we need them to work remotely. It means that we need to provide enabling technology to enable them to be able to achieve that. Then the third category we identified were those that are not possible at all. And so this was a very big challenge for those that are not possible at all, because the questions I was getting from some of the employees who knew that their roles, that it wasn't possible for them to work from home, was now, if we decide to ask them to go back home, it means that they will eventually be doing nothing. Does this then mean that they will be losing their job? And so there's need to begin to engage these three different level of these three different categories of employees. So the first one, taken from the last one, those that are not possible to work, the challenge there was to address their anxiety, because they were now anxious and needed to know what they can do to be able to remain at work, to ensure that they're not going to lose their job. So there was need for us to provide some sort of assurance, that over the next, as we continue to work, because this is something that has never happened before, it's new, we're just beginning to discover, and each day we learn from what it is that is happening. So there was need to assure them, address their anxiety, address their psychological needs, to make sure that they're in the right frame of mind, knowing fully well that as soon as things come back to normal, that we'll be able to get them back on board. Then for those who were able to work, but they needed some enablement, so we had to ensure that we provided tools, make sure there are laptops available, ensure that they are able to connect to the office systems via a VPN network. So these were some of the things that we did. And then how do we engage them to ensure that as they work remotely, especially for those who are not working and for those who are working, the first thing we did was to ensure that there's an open and regular communication. So what we did with that to ensure this open and regular communication is to establish WhatsApp groups. Because we have 23 different locations, so we have branch managers, all the team members in the branch belong to one WhatsApp group. And then we now got the regional managers to ensure that the cluster of branch managers who are reporting to a certain regional manager, they also belong to a WhatsApp group. Then these regional managers now were added to the task force, the COVID task force for the country, where you have members of the executive and then you have the regional managers in there. So the essence of that is to ensure that every day we have regular meetings on WhatsApp group, and when there's need to have a Zoom call, we have the Zoom call to ensure that we are communicating and making sure that everybody is kept informed of what we're doing, how we're moving, and considering that some of our operations, which were not before now, not able to operate remotely, we're beginning to transfer some of those businesses online. We had to ensure that these lines were open to ensure that we're able to communicate. So message is distributed every morning. We engage with the regional managers. The regional managers' responsibility now is to touch base with their branch managers, and those branch managers touch base with their team members. So on a daily basis, we ensure that each employee is reached out to know what they're doing. For those who are working, we have a report to track the activity of what has been done, what is the expectation for that day, what has been done, and then we get this reported. Then the other thing that we are also doing to ensure that we keep our employees engaged is trust. So there need to be that trust. We don't expect people to log in the morning and then we start monitoring whether they are still logged on up until evening. No. What we've now gone ahead to do is to say, this is what we want to achieve today. And then get that message out there. Everyone continues to run with it. So by evening, we expect a report. And so we've been able to trust that, yes, you've been assigned a task. By evening, you should be able to give us a report of what you've done or how you're going about it. And then the third thing is technology. So we've deployed Zoom on a daily basis, 2-3 times a day. We have a Zoom catch-up call with the ESCO just to see what is that's going on. And then with all the rest of the other employee, we have ensured that we utilize WhatsApp. Our emails are there, so when we need to exchange documents, we share via email. And then the WhatsApp is very, very key, because that is where we continue to send information to ensure that people exactly know what they need to do. Then the other thing we've also done is because we've discovered that there are reports across the country and across Africa about gender-based violence during this lockdown. So what we did was to deploy a survey to be able to survey our employees in order to find out, are there anyone, are there some of the employees who have, in one way or the other, encountered this gender-based violence? And the feedback that we're getting is very useful, because that's what we'll now use to determine what sort of intervention can we deploy. Yes, we're working remotely, but there is need for us to show concern about what is going on with our employees wherever they are located. So these are the three major things that we are doing to keep our remote workers engaged: open and regular communication, trusting that they will be able to deliver on the tasks that have been assigned, and then making effective use of technology to drive this process. So in summary, what I want to say is that remote work success depends heavily on whether we trust our employees to do their work, even when we can't see them. Because this time around, it means you can't always see them, especially for those who are on WhatsApp. We don't have Zoom calls with them. We don't see them, but we expect that they are working. So there's need for us to increase that level of trust, and which is why we've allowed the branch managers to be able to manage those teams. It's not possible for the head of HR from the head office to start managing what each and every person is doing. But the team leads, the branch managers are able to follow up on their team members and ensure that we are all aligned to achieving the corporate goal of the organization during this lockdown period. So in a nutshell, that's what I have to share with us.
Yeah, thanks, Emmanuel. So that was really quick and lovely insight. So just because of the time shortage, I'm not taking any question, but there are inputs coming. Please go through the chat box in other window of question answer, and please keep responding. So we go to the next show now. So that was Emmanuel from Nigeria. Thanks, Emmanuel. So we come to Asia here now from Africa side. So here is Ushana Dias from Sri Lanka. Ushana, can you hear us?
Hi.
Hi.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Great. Would you be able to put up the slide deck, please?
Priya, can you do that? Meanwhile, you can
Yes.
start. Yeah.
Yes, I'll
Can you see?
start. Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. Yeah.
You could just go on full screen, I think, and it should be fine. Sorry I'm not coming on video, though ideally I should, but I just want to ensure that the connection is clear. So I'm Oshana, I'm the SVP for Fortitude, which is an IT services company, a global company, but I work out of Sri Lanka. We could go to the next slide. Next slide, Priya. So in Sri Lanka, we started working from home on the 16th of March. So we are soon approaching 1 month. As we went into work from home mode, we started on what are the platforms that we would engage on. We mainly engage on Microsoft Teams. Within the first week of going on the working from home mode, our managing director globally addressed 250 people across 5 countries, saying what the current situation is. Basically, our centers of excellence, with the majority of population in both Sri Lanka and India, had gone into working from home. So we explain what working from home is going to mean, and also we shared some tips on how you work from home effectively. Next slide, please. So the first thing was we had to educate everyone on running successful virtual meetings. So a few pointers. Number 1, you need to ensure you connect with people. So call out names once in a while just to see whether the people are on and ask for their inputs, because there could be introverts and they might want to be asked for inputs. Have a structure to your presentation and your meeting. Follow an agenda, because it is different when you are on a virtual platform. Mute with care. We actually say don't always be on mute, because sometimes you're speaking and you're still on mute. I do understand there's going to be background noise, but if you do have a workspace from your own, it's better to be actually not on mute. Use video if your connection permits, so that you actually see the person. Assign a Yoda, and this is actually from Star Wars. So this is a person who will ensure that there is structure, and the person will also call out when the discussions are not going on track, and informing the meeting chair if there are also items that are left out of the agenda. Always be punctual. For virtual meetings, it's better to get online at least 5 minutes before and check whether your speaker is working, and if you're sharing a document, whether that is happening. Dress up, because you don't know when you might suddenly want to be on video. And it also helps to still get on that mode of work, even though you're just still working from home. And most importantly, take notes. And next slide. So I'm going to share some of the meetings that we have had so far, which might give you some ideas for virtual meetings and to bring in a bit of a fun aspect. So here you can see something we did last Friday. It was HR Friday Jam. So you see my HR team actually. So we had some disco music and we dressed up. And it was quite a lot of fun to see my team like that. Next slide, please. The Friday before that, we had the Funky Hat Friday, and we just wore different headgear. It's all things that you would have at home. Coffee and company was something we ran for our global management team. We told everyone just grab a cup of coffee and join in, because we do have officers from the US to Australia to Sri Lanka to India. So based on whatever time, coffee was the common drink. Next slide, please. So virtual pizza party is like what one of our teams is planning on doing, where the boss will actually order pizza and Coke for each of the employees and have a virtual pizza lunch, and then have their meeting. This I know was also done by SHRM. Something also to use at virtual meetings are polls. Tools like the Mentimeter, where you can have live polls and you can actually see whether the audience is engaged. SurveyMonkey and Poly are also tools that you could always use. Icebreakers will always break the ice, and it's also very useful for virtual meetings. So these are some that I've listed down. Show us your shoe, have riddles, show a picture, have a throwback Thursday. It's Thursday today, and that's something I did. Bring in a guest before you log off, maybe show your pet, do something different that people will engage. Next slide, please. Communication is always key. So IMD put out a communication to all customers, which also went on social media to let customers know we are working from home, and if there is any change of hours or the way we work, and also the platform that we do use to work, is very important to communicate. Internally too, we have a lot of communication going, which gives our employees access to which resources to use, whether it would be because of curfew, where they cannot get their groceries, to what could entertain their kids, etc. Next slide, please. The idea portal is something we also launched this week. We said nothing is a stupid idea, and sometimes when you are at home, maybe the time you get a best idea. So we've launched a portal where anyone can give any idea on how do we as a company go forward in the next 6 months. It's going to be a challenging 6 months, but we'd like to hear from everyone. What are their thoughts? What are our new business avenues? What are our new ways of working? So we did this just very simply through a Microsoft form, and we've told everyone to submit ideas, and we will evaluate it and get back to each and every person. Next slide, please. So bite-sized learning. So whilst we are working from home, learning also needs to continue. I am also a member of the Association of Human Resource Professionals Sri Lanka, which is the HR Institute in Sri Lanka. And we have already had 6 sessions, which we call bite-sized learning. Keep in mind that sometimes 1 hour probably is the best time frame that you can structure a learning program. So we've had various topics, as you can see in the screen, about 2 to 3 speakers, and then we take questions at the end. The platform we use for this is Zoom. So whilst we open this out to Fortitude employees, we also do have LinkedIn Learning, and we have put out all the recommended courses on LinkedIn Learning for our employees to make use of this as well. Over to the next slide, please. So these are some of the other activities that are in progress or that we are going to roll out. One is a virtual quiz. So we do have a quiz club at work that used to get together every other Thursday and have a quiz. So we are now going to turn that into a virtual quiz, so that we can still continue that. We also do have yoga classes, access to yoga and other cardio classes online, because there's a lot of things that are being done in Sri Lanka. We're also planning to have a recipe blog, because a lot of people in Sri Lanka are now without their maids, because they've all gone home, and not every. So for all the people who are struggling with cooking or struggling with what do you do with the things you have in your fridge, we're trying to help them out through a blog. Gardening. So this is something that our Prime Minister actually has opened out to the country to, garden and grow your own vegetables. So that's something as well that we are following and giving tips. And the next one we're doing is a virtual storytelling hour for all the kids at Fortitude, the mini Fortudites who can join in and listen. So, next slide, please. So to wrap up, we also want to, it's a lot of doom and gloom, right? And we need to still keep people going, engaged, and we need to ensure that people do still keep smiling. So a few weeks ago, it was International Day of Happiness, and we told everyone to send in a picture of you working from home. And this is fellow Fortudites around the world working with their family, with their pets, and the one person who's working alone actually arrived in Sri Lanka from Australia, and he was in self-quarantine. So that's why it's just him and his laptop screens. But we just connect people, and we share this on our email and on social media platforms so that everyone knows, life still does go on. It is tough, but we will get through this. And yeah, thanks. That's it from me. Stay safe. Nice final slide, please.
Sure. Thank you so much. I'm again losing out time, but there are a lot of input for you. One question, all speaker coming across, then, how do you handle the frontline worker work from home activity or employee engagement, or how do you handle who don't have facility to work from home? How do you keep monitoring those people? What is the way of communication? Please keep responding in chat box about this 2-3 summarize which I done the question. Okay, thanks Shoshana. So we come to USA here, so welcome Usha, we can see you. Yeah, so Usha is from USA, and I have anyway posted her LinkedIn profile. So she's global head of HR inside based in New York. Usha, over to you now.
Thank you, Ashish. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
All right, wonderful. So I think the COVID-19 situation has dramatically thrust the topic of remote employee engagement into the spotlight and compelling all of us to creatively think and rethink these strategies. And there were some amazing presentations and the thoughts shared by the co-speakers. I will share what is the philosophy that we are following and what are some of the things, and they may not be very drastically different from what the others have shared here. So without further ado, I think the first and foremost thing for us was to make sure that the entire employees, the remote employee workforce, were feeling included and connected to the organization. Nothing changes in terms of a culture, and we are a very highly engaged. We have a very highly engaged culture in terms of touch points. and easier because people were working from a singular premises, and as well as the global workforce which was dispersed. So we wanted to make sure that the same culture or the same philosophy continues when we move the employees into a remote model right now. And to that extent, what was very important for us that we continued the entire narrative and rhetoric of connecting these employees back to the organization, vision, mission, what their roles are and how are they contributing. Piggybacking on, I think what Manoj had mentioned about making sure that, that same connection continues. That was important for us. And this looks easier said than done, but then may not be impossible with the help of a strong communication model. And here is where me and my team, I think we took the forefront role in architecting this entire communication and conversation strategy, along with the leadership of the organization, and facilitating the implementation and the execution of it. And like in any other digital transformation journey, we had to reimagine the entire process of this communication and conversation strategy and rendering it on the digital platforms. Right from the manager-employee conversations to the leadership town halls to the water cooler conversations, it was important that we provided those platforms for employees where they're able to just go connect, have those informal conversations which are possible in a regular office setup. And this, of course, need to be amply and duly supported by the efficient collaboration tools that many of my co-speakers spoke about, whether it is Slack or Asana or a Hangout or the myriad other things there. That was the first point. The next philosophy for us was to lead this entire transformation journey leading with trust. And again, this might work in some of the setups and based upon the cultures. For us, it was important that trusting the employees to draw their own schedules, and for us, our deliverables, our deliverables were convenient for us to adopt this model. Trusting the employees to draw their own schedules, allowing them to balance their personal and professional commitments. Things were changing. This was a drastic period, or this continues to be a drastic period of change for all of us. So the demands differ. Allowing them to balance those personal and professional priorities, and at the same time, holding them accountable to the outcomes that they are responsible for. So, this particular enablement, I think that has made sure that the employees have enough trust in the leadership and the organization, and also give them the assurance that it's okay for them to, to adjust their tasks or their responsibilities based upon their own schedules. On a tactical level, and going back to what Ushana had shared in terms of the employee engagement models, those were some of the things that we had done as well. Right when this shift was happening, the CEO and the co-founders coming on board, letting the employees know that this is the change that is going to happen. What would that mean in terms of a change to the employees, to the customers? How are we plugging all the communication methods internally and externally? Just being in front of the entire team there and letting them know about all of those things, that helped. And then we also made sure that we individually were in contact with every employee. We divided the task amongst the entire HR team, being in touch with them either over phone or video meetings or Slack, just making sure that everybody is touched to know what do they need, what kind of a support do they need. That really helped. Another thing that really helped for us is moving the fun hours, the Friday fun, if I might call it so, moving it online and also inviting the families into it. I saw the pictures that Ushana had presented, and something akin to that, wherein we're pretty okay with having the families join in on the fun. And the teams have put together music shows, virtual music shows, and the trivia contests and the trivia games. I think that's something that has been welcomed a lot. Also, we had ran Pilates online sessions. We have those regular touch points, or those informal connects that make it a little more easier on all of us. There is a lot of stress, and how do we alleviate that stress? I think that worked a lot for us. Another thing is making these interactions very personal, and that's, doing it over video conversations as and when possible, and role modeling from the top, and also making it easy for people to know that we know you're working from a home environment, and there would be situations when your kids would be walking into the frames. We're perfectly okay with that. And in fact, in one of the meetings, our leaders actually did the entire meeting with his child in the lap, role modeling this and telling people that it's okay, we trust you, those kind of things that work for us. So in the view of time, Ashish, I will stop here, and then thank you for the opportunity here.
Thank you, Usha, to keep it very short and simple. So that was Usha from USA. Thanks for joining. It may be little early for you, I know. So looking forward. Please be there. A lot of inputs will be coming. Okay, so we move to next speaker. So that is from Indonesia. So that's Bulan for us. Bulan, over to you. I already posted your details. So she's Director HR for Leverage Media Asia. She's based in Jakarta.
Yes, hi everybody. I hope you didn't feel bored, because like the previous conversation that we had with all of the speakers is quite nice, and yes, I'm learning something new also. Well, maybe I don't have like too much information that I can share, but this is like the current situation that happened on here in Indonesia. So let me share my just a very short presentations that I prepared. Hopefully now you can see my screen. So this is like a very short presentation that I prepared. So basically in Indonesia, the current situation that we have about around 3,200 people with COVID-19 conditions, and like we still thinks that the situation will not getting better soon. That's why like we've been in a quarantine situation. We've been working from home around this is the 4th week that we've deal with that situation already. So a lot of things happens, a lot of things has to be adjusted, and I think like in all countries also the situation in terms of the economic situation is not really good, and we have to face that, because we are the first person who has to talk to the employee and explaining the situation. But what I think that the most important thing that the company should do now during this situation is being very like open and easy to be in touch with the employee, will help us to make them understand also the situation from our side. So this is what I've been like gathering a lot the last over 3 weeks when we do the work from home situation. So basically what we deal with the situation currently is that working too much. It is not because like they didn't know how to manage the work, but because like when they sit there, they need to manage a lot of things. And if usually when you stay at the office, the communication will be very easy. You can talk to your peers, talk just like a chat or poke them next to you. But now everything has to be doing by online, right? And then also some people who work with a lot of projects, they start getting confused with all the priorities of the work, which one has to be delivered first and everything. And also that also mentioned by the previous speakers, that sometimes the family even like order food. Indonesia is quite famous to order food via the online, so it's like a quite easy for people to order food, but sometimes it's broke the concentration when you need to focus on something, then you cannot concentrate because of the doorbells. And also that lately become the issues is also how people feel lonely, and then because lack of the human interaction. Of course, you still contact with the family, but you know that a lot of people came from outside of Jakarta. They stay here alone, and then they feels like there's no direct contact with another human people. It's only very limited, and it's like make them a bit stressed. And then also the communication issues from time to time, and then the technology hiccups, because if we are always talking to others, we are talking about the internet connection, and everything is not always like as smooth as in other places. And also that lately become an issue in my team is that they had a very bad health habits. Some of them like eating a lot because they got stressed and try to focus on the work with eating a lot, but some of them sometimes forget to eat. So it's like a, you know, it's giving a big impact to how they dealing with their day-to-day situation. So if I may say that the last 3 weeks everybody feels a bit burnt out. That's why like it's another things that we have to deal with, how we make sure people still have the same spirit like before, because previously we say that it will be only taking around 2 weeks for us to stay at home, and now people are starting missing their desk, missing their office, missing the like direct conversation with another peers. So it's yes, it's starting getting to burn out, and it's the impact is also shown on the result of the work delivery. Some of them is feel so lonely and lack of human interaction with the other people, and they starting like a bit not connect easily as before. And then the time management thing is, some of them is starting like losing their time plan and everything, so it's starting affecting the way they deliver their work. And also, you know, the update about the COVID situation around the world is quite make them feel uncertainty about the what will happen next, and can we recover from this situation. And also I know that a lot of people is also afraid of losing their job with this current situations. So if I might say, that is getting lower, the engagement and the motivation of all the employees. And what we try to do so far, so I think it will be very similar with the other people who've been explaining also the previous speakers, that during this pressure, what the very informal way of the communication that we try to develop to make sure the office activities is detected. And we have a lot of tools to support our work. We have our human resource information system that can also capture the live attendance when they deliver the project, and also the time attendance, so we know exactly when they start the work and when they finish the work, so we can monitor that even though they work from home. And for like project reporting and everything, we have another tools we call I think it's quite familiar also, we call it Basecamp. And since our email is based using the Google email, so we can do the daily call easily with the Google Hangout because it's part of the facility. So I push my team to do and I believe it's also applied to another team that now we did from time to time, is do a daily update with a video mode on. So it is a must for them to dress up, to put their makeup on. Even I told them that I'm using my perfume just to make sure that I feel comfort and happy and I am on my working mode. And then weekly we do the town hall meeting. So during the town hall also we you know, a lot of tools that we can use. So for the town hall meeting for everybody, if they are not at Jakarta, from the people from another office that want to join also. So it is a must also for them to put their videos on so we can see the faces. And it will not talk about very serious matters because we have our daily call to discuss about the business, but it will be more to like a light conversation, sharing about their life, sharing the stories, how they've been doing so far, how's everything on their neighborhood, and everything, other activity that they do beside of the working things. And for another engagement activities that now we push also is like we push them to learn not only internally with the team, but also like giving them a lot of information, that a lot of free webinar that they can join the webinar, and then they can assign, and we can assign everybody if we have found anything new that they can learn during the time. And also we're using Kahoot, we're using quizzes to share like any quizzes, and then we prepare a present for them. So we will make it either it's a personal you know, quiz, or it is a group, then we can manage that during the working hours. So basically it is replacing their day-to-day and our day-to-day engagement activities that we usually did at the office. And also we have our online games, which is also to have them work together or compete each other in a very relaxed situation. So it's like bringing their mood back during their work. So We have Mobile Legend, we have the warm zones also, and also the sport activity, starting from Zumba, yoga, and everything that we can do online. A lot of facilities that's now shared. I mean, a lot of people who offer this also, right, to help us during this situation. So basically, now the things that we are another problem that is coming is a lot of calls. Sometimes, when you're talking about working in a project, and it is not only one project, during the day, all the conversation will be on the phone, right? So sometimes on delivering the administration part will take longer because you have to move it after all the calls process. And it's now become a problem, and we are working on it. So we try to find the best way how to reduce the conversation over the phone from time to time, to make sure that we don't have any pending during the work from home for the administration things. So I think that's from me. Hopefully it's not taking too much time to explain, and I'm giving back to you, Ashish. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Vilan. So that was really short and simple. Let me go to the next. Thank you, Vilan. So that was from Indonesia. Looking forward to you to be there. There are a lot of inputs coming. They wanted PPT as well. So please suggest how you can share. Thanks, Vilan, once again. So we move to Middle East now. So here is Rahul for us. Rahul Patke. He is HR head for Havelock. Havelock One Interiors. So Rahul, thanks for joining. Looking forward to your insight on the topic.
Sure. Thank you so much, Ashish. And thanks to the entire HR Shapers team. And I guess all the speakers, because amazing inputs. And now I definitely feel it's a global crisis listening to everyone. And it's pretty evident. So as we all know, and we discussed it in the beginning of the call also, there's no point in talking about COVID. But yes, that is the health crisis which we have. But slowly we are moving into a next phase, which is an economic crisis. I believe many of us across the globe started feeling the same. Now, I think I was listening to the comments also and other speakers also. There is an aspect is like how are we dealing with the factory employees or blue collar as well, because not everyone working for the service industry. So there is a equal aspect which is more towards the manufacturing. So I would like to throw some light on that, because we are into a contracting company, but we also have a manufacturing facility. So we try to cover both aspects. Now, moving quickly, I think we have all discussed a lot of tools, or you can say a lot of initiatives which we can implement. But what is important is what are the principles behind those initiatives? What principles we believe in? And I would like to quickly go through those. I think it will help in interest of time as well. So there are 3 principles which we believe in, and I think those principles are helping us to get multiple initiatives in place. So first one is definitely a confluence, or you can say inclusion. Second one is definitely communication, as many of us have already mentioned. And third one is the commitment. And I would like to cover or try to cover both the aspects. One is the health crisis as well as the economic crisis, which is going to hit us, or maybe we are already in. So when we talk about inclusion, yes, I think we are doing a lot for our own employees. We have a lot of tools, IT tools in place to help them. But not everyone would be IT savvy, and not each and every role will fall into a category where they can contribute from work from home. And we have that scenario. We have many of us working on sites, and for them it's very impossible to even imagine how they'll work from home, but they are still struggling. They are trying for it. And that's the point where I think including a larger stakeholder into the picture always helps. And when I talk about it, it is when you talk about your contract workers, how are you taking care of them? So that is one aspect. Second aspect is your own office helps, in terms of your drivers, your office boys and all. So how are you, whether you are including them also into the picture or not? That is a very important aspect. So it moves from taking care of their health checkups, providing them house food, or even if there is EAP support required. So that's the first aspect of inclusion. Second aspect is like keeping all the stakeholders actually informed, which is very important, which is your clients, your subcontractors, whether they are on the same page as you are or not. Because when we talk about health crisis, actually it is like it's not only in your influence until unless everybody is on the same board. Another one which I would like to include is like engagement is actually not everyone's, like it's not only HR's responsibility, everyone contributes to it. And that's what we have experienced here is like all our project managers, all our business heads, the kind of initiatives they are taking at their end is helping, because it's not only a centralized or HR based initiatives, but it is that local initiatives or local engagement at team level that counts at this kind of crisis hours. When we talk about like at management level, definitely the confluence is to include all the functions, all the teams, so that everyone can contribute their bit. It's not only like your business continuity team or HR team will lead the show. It is mostly everyone's contribution, and to see how whatever initiatives you are taking is effective in each and every aspect of the organization. So that's about the inclusion. I'll quickly move to the communication part of it. And I think a lot has been already said. What I would like to emphasize here is also think about what not to communicate. So we are all busy in terms of finalizing the communication, like what all we can communicate. But I think there is another aspect is to refrain from the over communication. I believe employees are already, they are little bit bombarded with communication, because the entire social media channels, your WhatsApp, newspapers, news channels, so like they are more aware about the virus and the aspects about it. What matters is like they need to understand what is company stand in, or how do we interpret these aspects, and what kind of measures what we are taking. So I think that's something which is very close to them, and that I would emphasize that to be shared. And when we are sharing, I think it helps to maintain one channel rather than sending the same thing on maybe through WhatsApp channel or through intranet and then email. Rather, maintaining a kind of a channel which is like maybe email or intranet, it is helpful because people know whenever they want to see company stand or authentic information, where to go. Communication is, again, it's a two-way process. It's not only like that organization would like to communicate. I think it's very important to listen to employees or hear them. So what kind of avenues you create in that aspect, that is also equally important. Like for us, we have started a 24 hours help desk. We have a support like where they can call from any, we have 5 country operations, so they can call from any of these countries. Plus there is a WhatsApp support also. So it is like for employee, based on their situation, they can reach out to us. So it's to establish that two-way communication line is helping us. Last point on communication is, in my perspective, is like we soon move into a scenario situations where we do a lot of scenario planning, and then we start implementing. We start talking to people, and then those scenarios becomes live. I think what is very important in this case is like maintaining the confidentiality about employees. It's not like when HR handles, I think it goes without saying, because somehow HR always has it in back of their mind. But what is important is like when you're sharing and you're engaging your partners or other departments, try and see if you can protect the employees' confidentiality and their matters. Because I'm sure that soon we'll be over, this situation will be over, we'll be away from this. But I think those points which you share might stay. So it's better to maintain the confidentiality. Having said that, I think I'll quickly move to the last point, which is more on the communication commitment. And I believe before me, I think Manoj tried covering this aspect more in terms of like this reduction in productivity or the kind of cash flow impact business is having. I think soon we will be in a different phase, and it's very important for us now to ensure that that the commitment from organization side is not only enough. I think we will require a high level of communication from employee side also. Organizations will try their best. What is important is to sustain in the business. It's very important that everyone survives, and we should be able to sustain for longer in such period. Because the depth of this crisis is not known. We do not know how long we'll be functioning like this. So it's very important that we increase our sustainability. And what is required is like definitely there could be productivity tool, there could be a lot of measurements we can put in place. But I think self-measurement is more important. Each employee should know how he is contributing. He should know like whether he is working from home, that how much engagement he is putting in. Engagement is a two-way street. It won't work from only organization side. How much employees put in the place, I think that will make all of us successful and coming out of this kind of crisis. I guess that's the summary which I could put in place. Any questions are most welcome, or you would like to keep it towards the end of a session, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, Rahul. So we'll do it end of the session. Just wanted to ensure a speaker cover. We have last two speaker. So thanks, Rahul. So that was Rahul from Bahrain. Please be there. There are a lot of points coming. Go through the chat box. So we go to the Africa region now. So here is a Jackie for us. So Jackie is VP from one of the leading bank in Kenya. She's based in Nairobi, if I'm not wrong. So over to you, Jackie. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. I'm sure you can hear me as well.
Yes, yes.
All right. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and thank you the over 400 people who have attended. We appreciate to share our insights with you. My name is Jackie Ogonji. I'm talking to you from Kenya in Nairobi, East Africa, to be specific. I think a lot of my previous colleagues have spoken a lot. I think I'll just deep dive into a few things that we could actually be able to also pick, and part of what we have done and part of what has happened in the industry as well. So it's important to maybe give a preview. When you think about Kenya, maybe several people would not exactly know what is it like in Kenya. So in Kenya, we currently have about 179 cases. Doesn't look big, but what happens is the economy for Kenya, China is actually one of our biggest trading places, where we are a net importer of about 21% of our imports coming from there. And we're doing a lot of businesses. So everybody then is affected by this, because in a way or the other, there's a lot of work that we have been doing together, of course, from the perspective of whatever trading that we are doing. Now, sometime back in March, it was all over the social media, where an employee of an airline decided to post on the internet that there was a plane that had arrived when the coronavirus had started. And then this sparked into the HR fraternity. What happened? The employee was suspended, and people started learning from this. What was it supposed to be a suspension? What happens when somebody goes through whistle blows? And there was a lot of conversations around it. Actually, you find that even the Institution of Human Resources in Kenya then reached out to the practitioner. Why am I bringing this? In certain crisis management, we are not all ready to know how to communicate rightfully. And somebody said, you're never right or wrong. So again, this was a situation where a HR practitioner had to say something on behalf of the business. So again, those important teams to have. Then the government gave directives on travel ban. And since then, it has been giving reports every day on what is happening. And as a result, there are certain measures that have been taken. So we have curfews in Kenya, where by 4 o'clock, I'm actually almost going to run after this. We have curfews where employees are supposed to be released by 4 p.m. so that they are home by 7 p.m. And anybody who's not home, then there's an issue. There's restriction of moving from the counties that have people who are infected. So the government has taken up initiatives. What did some of the companies do? Communication, reacting fast. So immediately there was an issue that had started. Cross-functional teams came together and there was a crisis management team which was looking at first they started by identifying the risk levels and then went into the hygiene measures. And it's very important that each company is actually able to articulate what it means by washing hands, providing all these things, wearing gloves, ensuring that you wear masks at all times, because in Kenya currently it is a situation where every Kenyan is required to wear a mask in a public place. And so we are providing for all this as employers, but reiterating that, communicating that effectively. We've also seen where the CEO's communication every week to staff and HR communication to reiterate the hygiene measures, to help them on tips on what they are going to do. And then there's all these brilliant activities. Now, coming back to where we are talking about employee engagement. And this is basically the passionate feeling that an employee has on their jobs. Are they committed to the institution? Can they give discretionary effort? Are they happy at work and in their lives? This is still going to be measured, whether it is during this crisis time or before crisis. So please remember that your engagement survey is going to go on. So the question is, are people still going to feel passionate about their jobs? Are they still going to rate you high? And for you to do that, then you need to change your strategy, yeah? And ask yourselves, what can HR do that has an impact to the business at this time? And that is where you need to now refocus your strategy and your energy into those areas and see what is it that we can do at this time to ensure that our employees are passionate, that our employees are committed to their jobs. And as a result to this, of course, ensure that you reduce your staff turnover, ensure that you improve your productivity, which is a huge measure in terms of how are you going to ensure that you measure this productivity? How will you ensure that you still retain customers? Very important. Are your salespeople communicating often? Are you giving some free insights to customers? Are you just keeping in touch and being connected? But as HR, are we keeping in touch and being connected with people so that we maintain the social connection? And then, of course, we then see what profits the company is able to make at this time. But look at where are we saving costs? Then I'd seen a question about budgets. Where are we taking some of our budgets, right? Change your tactics. For example, look for e-learning programs and encourage people to now take e-learning sessions. I was speaking to one of my heads and he just tells me that he has been able to find a program that would have ideally cost me about $1,000 and he got it for about $200 for the whole department. Why? It's an e-learning solution. So I've empowered them to identify that right now the situation is different. Start giving your teams webinars. See who's interested. Learn how they learn, how they like learning. Partner with different organizations. If it's a 5-week program, can they do it for 5-day program? Can they do it for 3 weeks? Can they do it for an hour? Then they give people certain assignments so that you can be able to still retain what it is that you're retaining. You need to ensure that your employees are fully engaged, get the support. As leaders, you need to ensure that you're setting directions, you're clearing the waters, you're giving directions, you're taking care of the employees to ensure that the temperature of where they are working on is right so that you can be able to yield on their productivity. So how do you do that? Learning opportunities, checking on them every day, ensuring that the company is able to give tools. If you cannot give tools, you can still leverage on the tools that are available online. What are you working on? If you want team collaboration, you can look at things like Slack. If you want video conferencing and you want to see them every other time, you can look at things like Google Hangouts. You can look at things like Zoom. If you want to be able to do team brainstorming, there's things like Mural. If you want to work on projects and see how you can plan around them, you can use Trello. And all these opportunities are there in several ways that you can actually reach out and be able to manage the productivity. Important, how do we measure? So you can look at the call volumes, because those are things that people can do from home. You can look at website sessions. Have you been interested to see how many sessions are there? You can look at the conversation rate of the call volumes. You can also look at things like online response. Yeah, you can look at participation rate. You can look at how many more ideas. Do you have an idea hub? Somebody had mentioned that. Do you have we've seen the idea hub. Do you have an idea hub? What is coming out of that? Are you implementing some of those things? So the important thing is that you need to constantly communicate, understand these people, give them tools, train them on them, right? For example, simple things like, do these people have the right chairs in their place at home? So you still need to go on with the health and safety opportunities for these employees. But most importantly, stay in touch. And staying in touch does not mean that you need to invest in more tools. You can use the readily available tools. Then you can come up with rituals, team rituals. Do we meet every Monday at 8:30, making sure everybody's there? Then you make sure that you have challenges and competitions, e.g. the competitions, if it is physical competitions, social competitions, we have sports tournaments, we compete against each other. It's on a Friday at this time. Everybody wants to come in. Then you also look at quiz challenges. People have spoken about that. Then you also ensure that these challenges and these things that you're doing are aligned to your values. Very important. So that if you're talking about team collaboration and people are putting in pictures and talking about this, align it to some of the values so that people don't forget the values. Remember, that's important. And then how do you ensure that things are done? Getting things done. So give real responsibilities. Make sure that people feel included. How? They attend the meetings. They give their feedback. So find out, what are the key items you are doing this week? What have you done? What are you doing next week? And then what else were you following up on? Where are we with this? So that everybody is aligned, everybody feels included, and everybody is giving meaningful work. And then, of course, real life. Encourage people to be real with themselves as much as you are also monitoring performance. So that's a peek of what I would have to say. I hope I have not taken so much time, Ashish.
Thank you, Jackie. So yeah, that was really the quick one, but yes, we are losing on time. So there are a lot of good input. I like the point, even a small point that's about the chair, whether in the at the home whether people are able to sit properly or not. Because like in the office, if our company is taking care of the chair, at the home also, one should think about it, whether it's a self or someone else. I don't know. We move to, okay, we are still in Africa. So thank you, Jackie. That was Jackie from Kenya. So we move to last speaker, the meet. Yeah, over to you, Priya. So Priya is from Mauritius. Yeah, Priya, over to you.
Thank you, Ashish. Last speaker, so it's a tough job. What I'm going to try and do in the next few minutes is to talk about how we as a firm went about with the strategy around making sure that productivity and engagement do not drop while we change our strategy from working in the office to working from home in a remote environment. So for us, we broke it down into three pieces. There was the organization that you needed to worry about. There was the teams that you had to focus on, how would they operate. And then there was, of course, very critical, the individual staff members and how would they operate within this environment. The reason the three prongs were important for us was because very clearly, if the organization does not make money while we have a lockdown situation for a month and a half, it has an impact on the individual, because if the firm doesn't survive, then lost. And for us, therefore, it was important that people understand that when you're working from home, you actually are working, because your and some of my colleagues have spoken about it. Economic situation in different geographies is different. Mauritius is to shut down the office. Everybody had to work from home. What is it that we would need? It helped because it gave us the time to be equipped. We got laptops. We made sure critical staff had laptops, so on and so forth, such that when COVID actually started in my, we have offices in Shanghai as well. So that's where we saw it first, or I saw it first. So when we shut down our office in Shanghai and people started working from home, we started doing BCP testing for our Mauritius office, even though Mauritius had its first case on the 18th of March only. So that sort of helped us because we had already sort of tested for it, and that was where the organization focus was important. So we knew that if we had a shutdown scenario, the organization would not suffer. The staff would be able to bring work home and continue to operate in a seamless way from a client perspective. But there was still the other two prongs we had to focus on or worry about in a prolonged work from home situation. So when it came to the firm, the ability to work from home taken care of. Productivity of our staff was the second item. As is pretty common in a situation like this, when you start working 100% from home, not all your staff react to the situation in the same way. Some become more productive, and some understandably become less productive. They've got their home, they've got their families to worry about. We needed to account for all of it because there was no way we were going to tell staff, 8 to 5, you're my employee, I want to see your face, I want to see you online all the time. That was not going to work. One of my earlier speakers spoke about trust, and that's very important. Your staff needs to know that the firm trusts them. But in our context, we already had a productivity tool in place because you've got to bill your clients. So that was not a big deal at all, where staff needed to log in the productivity. And we knew that when you're working from home, at least in the first week, you're going to have IT related items and issues. And we invited all our staff to make sure that they file in for overtime if they were indeed putting in extra hours to be able to do the same amount of work. So that was the firm. We came on to the team, which was the second piece. So for the teams, it was important to make sure that the team how much work needs to come out for an 8-hour workday. So that was the other issue, that we needed to make sure that our managers were able to deal with that. So the only other piece that we did, we insisted that our managers do, is to make sure that they do a huddle every day in the morning, even though we are working from home. So like many of my speakers before me, they spoke about Microsoft Teams. We use that tool very extensively in our firm. So every team member runs a team huddle in the morning to make sure that, it could be audio, it could be video, but the idea is to be able to engage and also get an assessment of what's the volume of work, who's not looking like, they're dealing with the situation well, and who are the others who can sort of collaborate well. So that's something that we've been doing since we started work from home from the 19th of March. And it works very well. Every manager makes sure that there is a team huddle happening at the beginning of the day. So they're able to pick that up. The other piece that we told our managers upfront was, if somebody needed time off, even though they are sitting at home, the managers needed to deal with that situation as if you're in office. So if someone is unwell and they can't log in and do your work, you're going to have to anyway, assign that work to somebody else if it is time bound. So we had to sensitize our managers to make sure that they were keeping all of these things in perspective. The last piece to our three-pronged strategy was the individual, and that was by far the most important piece. Our staff are not used to sitting in a home environment and working, but luckily we are in Mauritius, and as you can see, it's a lovely island. It's got a lot of nature offered to you. So on the individual front, we provided something, we provided all our staff with flexibility. So they did not need to log in at the regular 8:30 if they had other personal items that they needed to focus on. Then team managers were asked to allow that flexibility to individuals who needed to sort of juggle responsibilities on the home front. For us, that is by far the biggest piece that my staff have sort of combated us. That has actually helped quite a lot. The other two pieces I think others have spoken about is to provide virtual training. We designed 1 hour, maximum 1.5 hour modules, which we've rolled out to our staff. So it's a virtual training on how to deal with remote teams, how to deal with the stress of working from home, how do you deal with the current situation. So stuff that is rather relevant in the current scenario. And then finally, we obviously gave them the signed up with a company called ICAS. Again, it is 24 hours. Anybody can log in, send an email, they will call you back. If you want to, talk about something, you're just frustrated being at home all the time, it allows people that ability to engage or connect with certified counselors who can then help you in a situation. Ashish, that's it from me. I'm aware that you're running out of time, so over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Priya. So nice to hear from Mauritius. Good practices. And okay, so we are open for Q&A now. Anybody can ask any speaker at this moment. Please raise your hand. I can see 3. So let me start with Nitin. Nitin, I'm opening for you.
I would like to ask how you are planning to keep workforce engaged, especially blue collar workforce during this lockdown period.
Okay,
And another question.
that is, please ask question if it is specific to any speaker, so that they understand this is this is
Ashish, would you get me?
Ashish, if you permit, can I answer this question because we have done something for the blue collar?
Okay, Dattatreya, can you ask another question? Then probably Deepak will take the first one. You have 2
Another
questions.
question is that how you are planning when the lockdown period is over, and how you are going to start the operation. What as a HR, what needs to be taken care by the HR while resuming the operations after a long lockdown period.
Okay, so 2 questions, Deepak, and other can also give the input after Deepak starts. So one is about the blue collar, second is what the HR look like after lockdown.
Okay. No, because I will stay at the first one, and I will give my colleagues opportunity to talk about the second one. What we have done, Dattatreya, because we are in the industry of liquid food packaging, and some of our customers are running 24/7 because they have to provide the food supplies, the water, drinks, milk, everything. So in some of the areas, we have to keep our factories operated. So even in the lockdown countries like Italy and France, we have encouraged, including India, because we got the permission from India under essential services. Per day's pay, we are paying an additional allowance. For example, an operator in France is getting 25 euro per day for the presence, but we are having less than 30 or 40% presence because many people are not taking this because they live in a different city or they have to take public transportation. But those who are coming and define all this part, and we are paying them 25 euro. In India, we are paying them 5 euro per day, which is a good amount. And for China, we are paying 10 euro per day. And in Mexico, it is about 8 euro. So this is the way for us to keep engaged. And those who are not able to come, I think we are not deducting their salaries, because if there is no need, and some of the people, those who need and they cannot come, they are filling up their leave. So this is what I will say. And I do not know whether it is engagement, but this is about keeping them employed and keeping them motivated. to attend the work wherever it is possible, and when it is not, I think we are not able to organize any training for that. This is what I will say. And the second part, I will let my colleague take that opportunity.
Maybe I can go through the second question, which asks, so what next after the lockdown? Now, this lockdown has given employers an opportunity to, one, you have been able to reroute some of your budgets. A lot of it has gone to things like e-learning instead of face-to-face. You have got enhanced hygiene methodologies by providing PPEs. Now, you can also use that opportunity after the lockdown to re-strategize your budget and ensure that you're using the money in different areas. Now, that is an opportunity that you can come back on after lockdown. You can actually come back and check what is it that we can do with the monies that we were saving, because you're working on lean structures and all that. But you need to be ready, knowing that there are certain employees who will tell you, we enjoyed working from home and I don't want to come back to work. What are you going to do with these people? So again, back to the definition of employee engagement. Do you provide an opportunity for someone to love what they do? Are they passionate about their jobs? You may need to rethink through the jobs that you require. I think somebody had mentioned that you have categorized your employees into functions. Who's critical? Who can work from home? Who must work from premise? And who is it that it's okay whether they are on leave, they are not on leave? And some of the things we have done is that management has a wider perspective of what exactly is happening in the space. Because on a daily basis, we say who is sick, normal sickness, who is sick related to who has a pre-existing condition, and therefore we don't need to keep them in the office, who has nursing, who is a nursing mother with children, and therefore they don't need to require, they may not need to be in the office because of the hygiene standards of the nursing issues, and then maybe who's expectant. Now, once I am able to work without nursing mothers, expectant ladies, I'm also able not to work with paternity, fathers on paternity, people with family members who are going through this current situation. I'm almost working with a 50% workforce. How can I create meaningful job? I think the biggest question is, how can I create a meaningful job for another 50%? Because currently we are able to work with the companies that are essential are working with 50, the others are even working with 5 or 10 or 1 or 0. So the discussion is, not everybody wants to come back to work because they have now enjoyed freedom. And that's why you need to encourage your idea platforms to ensure that people come up with critical ideas. You need to make sure that we are working very hard on productivity tools, because then we need to be sure and give certain metrics and be able to give an analysis saying that we were able to do things much better because people were at home, they were in their own environments. Maybe we have now changed our budget into giving connectivity, ensuring that maybe people stay in locations that there's less interference with things like, simple things like power outages, simple things like desks, chairs, because you have been able to identify that now you can actually work with those other people. So shifting your budgets into things that you feel will add more value. Measuring outcome instead of measuring activities. What's the outcome of this? Jackie said we do this e-learning program. What is the outcome? The outcome is there was more participation. The outcome is the performance is better. You see, so making sure that now we work towards the outcomes, but be of the open opinion that turnover may be high. Secondly, you may need to change your workspaces to include those ones at home. You may need to continue with the strict hygiene measures and provide those equipments, right? And you also may need to now change your focus to work on outcomes other than just performance activities.
Thanks, Jackie. Anybody like to add? Otherwise, I will take the next question. We move to another question now. That's Abdul Raja.
Yeah, I'm here. Good evening to everybody. It was wonderful listening to this, and it's a great initiative taken up by HR Shapers and Ash's team, and congratulations to Xoxoday to get this organized. So I have a couple of questions. Question number one is to any panelists, so not to any specific panelist, is about how do we measure productivity when people are working from home or working remotely? Do we measure the number of hours put in, or is it going to be based on the tasks that have been completed, and then probably ask them to walk away once they're done with the task? Probably 8 hours is a working day, and we can ask them to finish their work in 5 hours and then head back and get to what they want to do. This is question number one. Question number two is specific to Ibu Wulan. Selamat malam, Ibu.
Hello, Abdul Razak. Hi, selamat malam from Indonesia.
So my question is specific to Indonesia. I know that Indonesia, the internet connectivity is not as good as in any other part of ASEAN or India, if I can say. How do you manage with the outages and when people are working from home? And what kind of measures do you think will be needed to ensure that their productivity is not affected and at the end of the day, the business goals are met? These are my two questions.
Okay, so the first question is open to all. Wulan, you can take the second one. Let me assign to
Sure.
Mukesh. Mukesh, okay, sorry, Mukesh already answered that it's more depend upon the trust, productivity and all. But anyone would like to take it up? We have Emmanuel, then we have Meena is also there, Priya is there, Usha is there. This is about the productivity. How do we measure? This question is from India because there is a tendency that people don't work if it is work from home.
So
Yeah.
on productivity, these are unusual times, and so our method of measuring productivity might not really work, where you expect people to show up at work and you give them something to do and you monitor whether they are doing it or not. That might not work. What most of us have been talking about is that we now need to deploy what we call management by objective. So what specifically do you want done? And then that will be the task that you give out. And you expect either by the close of day or in 2 days time or in 3 days time, you expect to get the outcome. So I think it was Jackie that talked about what we need to monitor is measure outcomes and not the process. So we need to start measuring outcomes. So we give the task and then we expect that they should be able to deliver. Like I said in my presentation, trust is key. Okay, so trust is key, and that's the only way we can succeed when people are working from home. We need to believe that they will be able to deliver. And when you believe that they will be able to deliver, it kind of places a burden on the person who is working because they know that trust has been placed on them to be able to deliver on that particular task. So they will want to do their best to impress and to also show that they can perform without being monitored on a timely or daily basis from time to time. So that's what I would recommend in terms of how do you measure performance during this particular period. I hope I've answered the question.
Anyone would like to take it up? India is a big question on productivity, so that's why this question is coming.
Let me try to. Can I try and add? Sorry, this is Priya. Ashish, so, I am from India, so maybe I understand the question a little better. So, realistically, when people are working from home, a big chunk of your population is going to be diligent and they're going to do their regular productivity. They're going to make sure the job gets done. So you really want to focus on your bottom 10-20% that you know may not be tracking to the same productivity requirements that you would normally have. Personally, I've experienced that if you have people like that, then it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. You're going to have to do maybe tracking tasks from tracking the tasks that they're doing on a daily basis as one end of the spectrum of what you can do as an intervention, to just making sure that in the team huddle or in the morning call or the weekly call, whatever that might be, you're able to focus on that one or two individuals within that team to make sure that they have complete clarity, that you're holding them accountable to a certain amount of productivity. And then you customize anywhere on the spectrum from, being micro all the way to, just making sure that people understand their responsibilities. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, and if you, Ashish, if you can allow me to take a little lighter view, I would like to share simply one slide, and let me see if it is possible. It is by Professor Adam Grant of Wharton, and I've just noticed it. Can you see my screen?
Yes, yes, we can see.
Yeah, exactly. This is I've copied from Adam Grant, and he's my favorite professor of organizations behavior and psychology. So what he has shared this in a lighter way. Things I need and things I have: Wi-Fi, couch, and coffee. To working from home. Things I don't have but I need is any sort of work ethics, right? And things I don't need but I have an unrivaled ability to procrastinate, and things I don't have or things I don't need a bench on. Of course, it is on the lighter way. But if I've looked more the presentation from Jackie, Priya, and Mukesh, I think it's more about driving the engagement and trusting the people. In some of the companies, it's possible to measure the productivity, but many of us would not have a right measurement of productivity except whether output has been done or whether whatever has been committed has been delivered. So for me, what it drives the working from home, and as I agree with Jackie, because pendulum will move, but it will never move to the place even if the things return to normalcy. I think we'll have to trust more and more our people, and we'll have to help them develop a sense of responsibility and sense of ethics, work ethics. And it is, I'm an Indian, but if you ask me, that's not the question that we debate here in Europe. Even if people might be working less than the people are working in India or in other parts of Asia. But this is my take would be that productivity is, I would not make it unless it's that kind of a back office kind of operations. I will not. I do not see it in the same way, that problem. So just on a little bit lighter note and a contrarian view.
Thanks, Deepak. So
Thank
yes,
you, Deepak.
we go to Volan now because that question was asked to Volan. The second question, Volan, over to you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Abdul Razak, for the question, and I believe you can speak Bahasa a bit. Thank you so much. So, what measures we would take in Indonesia for the internet connectivity? I think maybe like the situation if we are looking on our situation in Indonesia is quite similar with what happened in India, right? Because we have a lot of people in a working environment and a lot of people that we have to manage also at the same time. So before we decided to do the working from home, actually, I prepared to make sure that everybody need to check their internet connection on the day before we decided. So before even the management make the decision, we already have our BCP plan, similar to my friend at the Philippines before mentioning that we already have the plan, what we can do to support everybody and make sure that they can work during their this period, because it is a must for everybody to work from home at that time. So I check to them and we make sure that their laptop, their computer, then everything is ready. And also we give them an option. They need to check with all the internet providers that we had in Indonesia. They can check which one will be giving them the best connection. Even though it is bad, but at least they have the connection, even though it is very low. So during the day-to-day situation, we keep on checking to them if they got any difficulties. We have our additional modem prepared for them, so we can provide it also to them. So previously, when we are working at the office, everyone at my office is also got support by they can claim the internet that they use, so it's by reimbursement. So during this process, what we do now is like upgrading the amount that we can support them, because working from home means that they will have fully at home, right? So we upgrade and update.
I think, Ashish, I have to leave as well because I have another meeting started, right? So thank you very much once again.
Sure, Deepak. We are just winding up. We lost Fulan. some network issues. So Abdul, that was a network issue perhaps. Let's see when she come back. We'll have four more questions and then we'll wind up. But before that, I'd just like to, invite Manoj to share, what Manoj and his team has a something to offer on employee engagement. Manoj, would you like to just share in a quick bite so that the audience get to know what is there?
Yeah, sure. So, so this has been a very fantastic session, and thanks to all the panelists and all the participants, because the combined sharing of knowledge has been really awesome. To answer this question around productivity, which has been one of the major questions in this entire session, I would recommend everyone to read a very, very fantastic book by John Deers, who is one of the initial board members with Google, one of the finest investors and one of the finest coaches in the world. The book is Measure What Matters. I'm sure that some of you might have already read that book. So the fundamental around productivity is that you should measure what really matters rather than trying to measure what really doesn't matter. So rather than measuring that how many hours somebody is putting into work or what are the kind of tasks that person is doing, rather than that, can we measure what are the results that person is giving? So try to focus on the results rather than the process, because finally what matters is the result rather than the process. That is to answer the productivity question. Overall, I just want to kind of end then share an ending note from my side, and then Ashish can take over. That I think the primary concern which we are having today is around health, and I suggest that everyone, including us as well as the employees we are working for, the primary thing is that we should take care of our health and ensure that everyone's health is taken care of. And HRs are like the government for that company, because the way the government takes care of the population of a country and the people, the HRs play a similar role by taking care of people of their company. So we have to be really very agile and forthcoming in whatever ways we can to help people to overcome this particular situation. So business can always come second. The primary thing should be people first, and maybe the business later. So let's work towards that, and if we can all motivate our employees to kind of contribute in whatever way they can contribute in the larger interest of the society in this situation, that would be really helpful. So if anyone is in a position to help somebody else, that would be a great spirit during these times, because every small help will really be a big help for the overall humanity, overall society. So that is what I actually wanted to say. And Ashish, over to you, please.
Thanks, Manoj. That was really good one about the productivity and health. Yeah, that's very critical, because entire life schedule, daily schedule is getting changed. Not only individual but family as well. So I will open up for 4 questions. We have delegates. So let me put the sequence wise. So first it will be Samrat, then Bharat, and then Kshitij, then Shirish. So Samrat, your question to whom? Please.
Okay, see, my question was similar to what I have posted in QA and someone has asked. So my question was related to how to monitor, like how to engage your frontliners or blue collar. And the second one was how to, measure the productivity. So both of the questions
Okay.
has been asked by someone else.
Good. Okay, so
yeah.
Samrat, so no other question.
Not as of now. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. We move to Bharat now.
Hey, hi. Thanks for the time. See, I just want to ask the speakers from ASEAN, especially from China and other parts there. And also in US, you see employees who are getting affected by COVID right now. From an employee engagement standpoint, what are the measures that your company is trying to do for those who are coming back stating that, yeah, we are cured from COVID-19 right now and we are ready to take over the job? That's point number one. Number two, from a medical insurance standpoint, what is the initiative you have taken so that those things are covered by the employer to the employee?
So this question is very specific that, if there is any employee who's affected with the COVID, so how to take care post treatment, right?
That's right. That's right. So
And
when they
how
join back stating that I'm good and I'm ready to, work.
So let me start and other can chip in, it's too early to say. I'm not sure because most of the offices may not be open, and if anybody affected is still at home. So, and it may be very premature to judge when office will be open, what company will do, any dedicated place for them, dedicated activity, dedicated people and all. So I don't know. I leave it up to the speaker to say, but I think it's too early to decide at this moment.
Yeah. So
Anybody would
Ashish,
like to touch upon? Yeah.
I'm just trying to ask, even at a work from home situation, say for example, there are employees who would have got affected earlier, especially in China, who would have come back stating, yes, I'm cured right now. And they do a work from home, like what kind of activities the company is going to take care, how is the task being assigned, or what, the counseling for the employee or their family members, how is that an employer is taking?
So this question was asked in the last series also, and I also said that, okay, company may not like to disclose, but anybody would like to share the best industry practices, what they are aware about. This may be confidential, Bharat, so that's why nobody will come forward and say. But unless somebody has really designed the policy at this moment, please feel free to share. Question to all speakers.
I'm happy to kind of have a go. It's Mina,
Yeah.
Ashish. So I think first of all, don't wait until you have an impacted employee. So for example, we've already spoken to our medical insurance providers to see if they would cover tests, if they would cover, if there was any kind of related illnesses, would that be covered? So I think the first and foremost, don't wait. Get in touch with your medical insurance provider now, and make sure you communicate what is covered, what's not covered. I think secondly, you need to respect the quarantine positions in the local markets. So in the UK, it's you have to have at least 7 days away, 7 days quarantine. In Malaysia, it's 14 days. So they have to. You'd have to kind of track the fact that they were quarantined or not. If after the quarantine period they have been declared medically fit, and we do ask for medical certification that they are medically fit from their doctors, then yeah, they are. I mean, clearly after the lockdown period, then they will be able to go back into the workplace. But I think a lot of what you're describing, I would actually, if you haven't got in touch with your medical insurance provider or your EAP provider, I'd kind of start there. Don't wait until you've got a case.
I don't know, Bharat, but some company, I think, deciding additional budget may not be part of the mediclaim and personal accident at this moment. But that's what I'm hearing from many people. In India, there is another query, if somebody can touch upon, because, okay, we don't have anyone, but let me share, there is a certain pool of people who are the lower salary paid, they are part of ESIC. So there was a question whether ESIC coverage is there or not. So just like to share on the table. Anyway, we move to
can
now.
I pitch in here?
Yeah, Abdul, just make it very short. I just want to take.
Yeah, I'll make it very short. I'm part of the official COVID-19 war room set up by the CM of Karnataka. So with regard to the insurance, there has been a notification from the government that insurance companies have to cover anything that is related to COVID-19. It could be right from pre-illness, that is your testings, and up to your discharge. And I think one of the questions that people are asking is like, how do a person who is tested positive get back to work? The process is very simple. You need to be in touch with the primary health department of the local government, and the local health official will come and certify whether they are cleared of the COVID and you're free and you're declared negative, they will give you a certificate, and based on this, the employee can always come back to office, whether it is from home or whether it is from office setting. It doesn't matter. So you can always return to work.
Okay. Yeah, Bharat, you can connect with Abdul. Abdul is from Bangalore and he's part of COVID ground level team. Yeah. Okay, we move to Kshitij now. That is the second last question. Kshitij, over to you.
Hi Ashish, it was a very good session wherein all the noted speakers have covered good topics. I would like to touch base on one of the topic like of communication. So there is a lot of emphasis on communication, but when we talk about communication, how we can make sure that we are making effective communication and that communication is not overpowered, like we are not too much communicating, because what is happening currently is we are communicating to the employees too much, so that they should not feel offended that why suddenly so much of communication is happening, and where we should restrict ourselves in terms of communication.
Any you like to ask any specific?
I would like to ask Rahul. I'm not sure whether he is
Rahul, no, Rahul is not there from Bahrain.
okay.
Okay, let me ask to Mukesh. Mukesh, I can take this liberty to ask this question to you. Communication, how to categorize the communication, bad, good, or who should be responsible? That is my first question.
So we are not over communicating to the employees, because if we communicate daily, so there could be a chances that they may feel why suddenly so much of communication is falling in place.
Kshitij, you are from which company?
I'm from Smiths.
Okay.
Can I try to answer the question?
Yeah, I'm saying Mukesh,
Yes.
if Mukesh is taking up, then you can give the input. Yeah, Mukesh.
All right, so Kshitij, I would say good question. First of all, it's always said you communicate a lot more during crisis situation. And like for us, if I give example of BSF, we're a global company present in all the regions, countries. So what we do is we actually leverage various platforms. So Intranet being one. And then I spoke about a couple of other platforms that we use. Now it depends in the businesses. There could be in a global company, you will have a global communication, which is via global intranet. Then you will have something from a business perspective. There would be something from the local management perspective.
Of course, yeah.
But all the communications are very different, directing at a different level of audience. Now, of course, you don't bombard people with the various calls, so we restrict the calls. Calls are more at a smaller number of, employee base. But otherwise, we have large communications. Sometimes it's globally relevant, sometimes it's relevant at the country level or at the regional level. So, but I would say these are important times that you over communicate just to avoid that people have good clarity and they're not assuming things. There was a question in the chat box as well, somebody talking about this part, that how do you deal with rumors about job losses, etc. So it's good that the management communicates and you hear the right messages and you avoid all the assumptions and the rumors going around.
Yeah, thanks, Manoj.
Thank you,
thanks, Mukesh. That was Wulan. I'd like to answer this question. Yes, Wulan.
Okay, here my prepare ourselves to be the communication. So all the information we share daily to the employee, where they want to clarify if they got any information or any hoax information, they can refer to us to get clarifications. That's from me.
Okay. Oh, that was very quick. Good. So Kshitij, let me just summarize. I think this is the time to connect with legal and communication, and obviously communication, marketing communication team and leadership to ensure how it should be very short, sweet, and crisp. Obviously, HR will not be alone decision maker. Yeah.
Sure.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah. So this is the last one now from Shirish.
I thank Ashish and thanks all the panelists. I had two questions. One for Deepak. I don't know whether he is online. And
Deepak,
second is for Jackie.
Deepak left. We have Jackie. Jackie is also not there. You need to divert this question to anyone.
I don't know. Maybe this was a very motivational point what he talked about for the employees by paying the additional incentive, the numbers what he mentioned about the some euros, but at the same time also demotivating for the employees to filling the leaves when, and then how is going to handle the compliance which normally happens in. So that was my question, because Deepak understands, he being from the India. So maybe I can, if you can share his details, I can offline talk to him.
I'm
Uh,
not sure. I'm not sure whether everybody understand what did you ask after compliances. So first is, can you repeat the question quickly?
the question was basically filling the leave by the employees in the current scenario in India, when government issued so many notifications. So there could be an employee relations issue. Why employee needs to fill up the leaves?
Yeah, so that I think that's very specific to India. I know there's some issue going on with some company. What was
Correct.
the and you are asking it how to take care of the compliances, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Anybody like to touch upon if they are aware about where, employee being asked to update the leave while they are working from home, right?
Hello,
Yeah.
can I answer to this?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I'm
This is the last.
Dattatreya for giving opportunity and wonderful session. Okay, thing is that while applying leave, I want to understand, get the clear guidance from the top management, but they actually need to take a decision on the part of leave. And if the management is ensuring that leave has to be taken by the employees, then we need to discuss with the if the work committee is there, we need to discuss with the work committee and take their consent, and then you can ask them to apply the leave. Okay, this is the one part, and we have to also communicate to the management that during this situation they cannot force employee to fill up the leave, because this is not a management created this situation. It is a epidemic, natural calamities has come up to all countries, and management has to cooperate to the employees, and they have to ensure that the employees to be motivated during this situation, so that when they start the work or resume the operations, they can be motivated and they start working.
Thanks, Dattatreya. Yeah, so this is the new situation. We'll get some new solution as well. Though, we will need to look into compliances and government enforcement as well. Okay, I have last question to all speakers. Just keep it very short. Uh, are you coming up with any new kind of reward and recognition, monetary scheme at this moment, or non-monetary, those who are on the field at this moment, for some or other job, with the special permission, or there in the market if you're part of the essential services industries and all?
I would like to add here, Shirish here.
Shirish, let me just ask the speaker, then perhaps we'll ask rest of
Okay,
you.
okay.
Yeah, Meena, Emmanuel.
Sure. No, in a word, that we wouldn't offer any special allowances. However, it's really important we recognize the contributions that people are making throughout this process. I mean, we've had, and so what we are doing is making sure that we pivot all of our current recognition processes to those people, and whether it be stories about heroic acts that people have done, or when they've gone over and beyond things. And then lastly, so definitely pivoting our recognition systems to
At the same time.
correct.
Okay, Shirish, just you like to touch upon, and then we can wind up now. Shirish, you wanted to talk on this point?
Yes, disconnected.
Disconnected, I can see. Anyway, so thank you so much, everyone. The next, okay, before I say, thanks all the speaker to take out the time. Okay, the closing time was 6. We are 7:30, so it's additional time we spent. But yeah, so thanks each speaker, from 12 to 13 countries. The next one would be with remaining countries like Nepal, Hong Kong, Japan, then some part of Africa, which is like left out Zimbabwe, then Botswana, and then Spain and Netherlands, Poland, so we'll cover those countries. So looking forward to your participation. You'll get a communication, and then that will be the last series, and then we'll start with something else, which is again global topic. I hope lockdown will be over soon. We'll get back to work and all. But if not, then we'll have a different way of working. But yeah, life will go on, and we need to continue with all the struggle. But yeah, there's opportunity also. There's more of opportunity we need to consider. So HR has to time to create some value addition in this current situation. Thank you, everyone. So looking forward to see you. Share the
Thank you,
chat
Ashish.
and
Thank
recording
you,
will be
Ashish.
shared with everyone. Yeah, thank you. Bye bye.